Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto has a sealed intelligence part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Tap. Haha. Tap tap. Two exhausted and bleeding people, a blonde man in a white cloak, and a red-haired girl in a dress, stood pierced by the huge claw of a nine-tailed demonic beast, which is called the Kyuubi for short. The target of the Kyuubi attack was a crying baby lying in front of them, which was their precious child, whom they protected at the cost of their lives. This fading couple was called Namikaze Minato and Kushina Uzumaki. At the time of the birth of their son Naruto, there was an attack from an unknown ninja in a mask, who, possessing a Sharingan, and having an unknown ability to teleport, was able to steal Kushina, and using the weakened state of her seal and herself after childbirth, was able to release the Kyuubi from the seal, and even take control of him with his Sharingan for a short time. But this time was quite enough to summon the beast to Konoha, and almost destroy it. Thanks to his incredible skills, Minato, who was proclaimed the Konoha's Yellow Flash and became the fourth Hokage, was able to defeat both the person with the Sharingan and prevent the destruction of Konoha using his signature space technique, the spatial barrier. And with the help of the ancestral ability of the Uzumaki clan, Kushina was able to capture the beast with her chakra chains, which helped Minato to seal half of the beast's chakra into him, so that then, without unnecessary risks to the baby's life, he could seal the other half into his newborn son, thereby making him a Jinchuriki. The beast, which had already gotten out of the Sharingan's control, understood what was about to happen, and in an attempt to avoid another confinement inside a person, tried to take advantage of the distracted Minato and kill little Naruto. But alas, the parental instincts were stronger than the pain and fatigue they experienced, and they were able to get in the way of the attack, stopping the claw literally a few centimeters from the child. Now they are frozen in this position, looking at their child with warmth in their eyes. Minato, upset that Kushina was also exposed to the blow, spoke with severe shortness of breath. I told you that it is the father's duty to protect the family and the child. To which Kushina countered him in a weak voice. Nevertheless, I am his mother. Remembering Minato's desire to seal the Kyuubi into Naruto, she added. You know, this is the first time when I find it difficult to argue with you. I think we are now ready. Smiling, Minato answered. Thank you, Kushina. After producing a series of hand seals, Minato summoned a toad named Geratora, to whom he gave the key to the seal of the 8 elements, which he would use to seal the Kyuubi into Naruto, so that he would later pass it on to Jiraiya. All this time, Kushina looked at her child with bitterness, and spoke quietly. Naruto, what a shame we can't educate you, mentor, and guide you. Minato, who had already managed to send the toad back to its dimension, looked at the sad Kushina with bitterness in his eyes, and thought very deeply about something. Meanwhile, Kushina continued to speak with blank eyes. I would like to see how you grow up, fall in love for the first time, find yourself a bride, and maybe not even one. I still regret the fate of our clan. It would be great if you could one day revive the Uzumaki clan. Naruto. Unable to endure such a heartbreaking speech from his wife anymore, Minato finally got out of his thoughts and decided to offer something that he would never have offered in any other situation. Kushina, I have a way by which we can in some way accompany our son on his future journey, but… Before Minato could finish, Kushina spoke up. Is it true? Then whatever it takes, I want it. Smiling bitterly, Minato answered. Kushina, listen, kaka. Cough. After coughing up some blood, Minato continued. We have very little time. The way I'm talking about is one special seal that I began to develop on the same day when I found out that you were pregnant. This seal was supposed to become some kind of artificial mentor who can transmit wisdom and knowledge from parent to child. That's just, I was never able to finish it and come up with a safe way to limit and systematize this set of knowledge in order to prevent the destruction of the mind from a sudden replenishment of information. The only option that came to my mind was to sacrifice a part of my soul in order to create some semblance of intelligence for the seal, making it self-sufficient and self-governing, which will allow it to become not just a set of knowledge, but a whole system for learning. But in essence, for us it is no better than using the call of the god of death, since in this and in that case, your soul loses the possibility of rebirth. This why are you? Kushina couldn't believe that Minato was secretly doing something like this. Minato looked at her seriously and answered. The day I found out that you were pregnant was the happiest day in my life, but at the same time, I had a strong premonition that something bad was going to happen. I was not sure what exactly, and therefore, preparing for the worst possible scenario, I wanted at least our child to remain safe and have the necessary knowledge to protect himself and survive, in case we were gone. But alas, I never had time to finish my work on the seal. So Kushina, if you're ready, we can give away a piece of our souls and integrate them into the seal. With 2 souls, it will stabilize and become much more effective, and over time, we will even be able to sometimes communicate with our son. Even if not for long, but it will not be limited to one time, as if we left with him only a part of our chakra. Looking at her little child, Kushina nodded emphatically and answered. If I can help my child on his way, then I will gladly give my soul for this. Minato smiled warmly and nodded. Then give me your hand, Kushina. Kushina and Minato connected with their hands, creating a paired hand seal, and Minato began transforming the chakra on his free hand to form the seal. The same thing started happening on Kushina's free hand. Done. Put your hand on Naruto's belly. I will hide this seal behind the seal of the 8 elements, as their spirals match perfectly. Once we finish, the Kyuubi will be sealed, along with a piece of our soul. Are you ready, Kushina? After receiving her consent, Minato immediately began to perform paired seals with Kushina, who easily repeated them, thanks to her vast experience as a shinobi. When the last hand seal was formed, a wave passed through the bodies of the couple with a corresponding sound. Fuin no Jutsu Seal of Legacy. Saying the name of his technique, Minato completed the formation of the seal. Immediately, part of their nature separated, heading straight into the little Naruto's belly, forming a spiral seal, in the shape of the Uzumaki clan, over which the seal of the 8 elements appeared, disguising it with itself. With smiles on their faces, the parents watched as the furious Kyuubi was pulled into the seal, and then with a sense of accomplishment, they let their minds follow, connecting with the seal of the legacy. Minato didn't know how long it would take for the seal to fully stabilize, but he knew that when it showed itself, Naruto would still be an 11 to 12-year-old child, which would allow Kushina to nurse her baby at least a little. Grow up a good child, Naruto. The last echoes of consciousness disappeared, leaving only one crying blonde baby, who was eventually taken by the 3rd Hokage. From this moment, the life of Namikaze Naruto Uzumaki begins, the heir to his parents, and the child from the prophecy that will bring true peace to all shinobi nations. 12 years later. Tap 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 tap. A blonde boy in an orange jacket and cargo pants of the same color ran across the rooftops of Konoha's buildings, with a cheerful grin on his face and cans of paint in his hands. This was 12-year-old Naruto and was currently running away from the Chunin ninja after his recent prank, in which he painted the faces of the 4 previous Hokage with all sorts of scribbles and drawings. Naruto! Stop, you wretch! A group of Chunin tried to catch the prankster, but alas, our hero always somehow managed to escape from them. Therefore, this time, like any other, he was able to escape from them without any problems. Removing the veil of disguise, Naruto looked after the Chunin who ran past and said, laughing, "Hee hee hee! You will never catch the great Uzumaki, Naruto, believe me." "Oh really, Naruto?" "Wow!" Hearing an angry voice behind him, Naruto jumped up in fright and flopped down on his butt. Turning around, he saw his sensei Iruka, who was standing with his arms crossed and looking with displeasure at the culprit. "Iruka-sensei, where did you come from and how did you find me?" Iruka responded in anger. "You better tell me, why did you stain the faces of the great Hokage, Naruto?" "He he he." The blonde laughed, scratching the back of his head, and answered. "Iruka-sensei, this was a demonstration of the elusiveness of the future ninja, who will one day become the most powerful ninja in the village." Iruka's eyebrow twitched, and grabbing the blonde by the collar of his jacket, he pulled him towards the painted faces of the Hokage. Well, after such a demonstration, the great and elusive ninja will have to work hard to clean up everything he has done. Startled by this statement, Naruto goggled his eyes and responded indignantly. "What? But I tried so hard to create this masterpiece, you cannot force me to erase something so grandiose." Indignant Naruto spreading his hands in different directions. "Oh, I totally can. And you better hurry up if you don't want to make it late." Offended, Naruto crossed his arms, letting Iruka drag him along the ground, and responded in annoyance. "What difference does it make whether it's late or not? Nobody waits for me at home anyway." Catching notes of sadness in the annoyed boy's voice, Iruka realized that this was still a difficult subject for the boy. Moreover, without parents, he simply has nowhere to get a proper upbringing. Thinking a little, he brought his hand to his head, and scratching his temple with a finger, as if he had said casually, "Hey Naruto. You know, if you finish cleaning the monuments until late, how do you feel about going to Ichiraku Ramen together? My treat. Hearing the magic words, Naruto turned to Iruka in surprise and answered. Really? You're not kidding, Iruka-sensei? Hooray! Now this is a really serious motivation. I'll finish the job in no time, believe me. At that moment, two young girls were passing by. One was in a red chipao dress and black shorts, with pink hair. The second girl was a pretty blonde in a purple chipao dress, with elastic combat bandages underneath, covering her breasts and thighs. They were Sakura and Ino, the ever-rival duo. When Naruto noticed them, he turned his attention to Sakura, and immediately waved his hand at her in a friendly manner. Hey Sakura-chan! How are you? Do you want to go tomorrow to the… But before he could finish, the irritated Pinky replied sharply. Leave me alone, Naruto Baka. I don't have time for anything that you would suggest. I need to make sure that Inopig does not bring her paws to my Sasuke. Ino had seen this situation many times, and was not even surprised at her friend's reaction to another attempt by Naruto to invite her for a walk whenever possible. But when she heard the last part, she immediately rebelled. What did you say there, forehead girl? And anyway, when did Sasuke become yours, huh? Tomorrow he will be. I was able to save money for a popular new perfume, and it just has to impress Sasuke. He will fall in love with me as soon as he smells them on me. Pfft, no way in the world. I finally got my mom's permission to use light makeup, so you can throw your perfume in the trash right away, as I will definitely be in a better light. Ho ho ho. So the duo walked past Naruto and Iruka, completely forgetting about the blonde, as if he was an empty place. Naruto remained standing with his hand raised, continuing to stare at the empty space where his friends had recently passed. Waking up from another defeat, Naruto sighed doom, and remembering the ramen waiting for him, hurried along with the grinning Iruka to the Hokage statues. As promised by Naruto, he got through the cleanup pretty quickly, and after a successful completion, Naruto and Iruka went to Ichiraku Ramen. When they arrived, they ordered several bowls of ramen, and began their meal. Thinking about Naruto's action, Iruka asked, Hey Naruto. Why did you decide to ruin a place like this? You know who the Hokage are, right? Of course I know. After swallowing the last of the broth from the bowl, the blonde continued. Those who hold the title of Hokage are the #1 ninja in the village, right? Then, remembering the fourth Hokage's face carved into the mountain, he added. And I heard that the fourth Hokage was the hero who saved the village from the fox monster. Iruka listened to him, and could not help but ask a reasonable question. But then why? Continuing to stare at his bowl, Naruto answered. One day, I will get the title of Hokage, and I will become the greatest of all the previous Hokage. Believe me. Pointing his chopsticks at Iruka, Naruto finished his pretentious speech. Iruka looked at him in such perplexity that he even forgot to chew the noodles that were still sticking out of his mouth. Naruto didn't end there and said, And then, all the people in the village will recognize me and my strength. Then, shifting his gaze to the stunned Iruka, Naruto asked, By the way, sensei, can I ask for something? Another bowl? No, not that. Can I wear your forehead protector? Iruka was surprised, and reached out to his protector, answered. Oh, this? No, this is proof that you graduated from the academy and became a real ninja. You will get yours in 2 years if you pass the exam. So try not to miss classes like you do today. And yes, by the way, because of your prank, tomorrow you will have a repeat clone technique practice exam. What? But I still can't do this technique. It's not fair. Iruka laughed at the outraged blonde, which was a mistake because the frustrated Naruto made a rather harsh response. Tuchi Ajizan. 5 more bowls. Realizing that the blonde had launched a surprise attack on his wallet, Iruka, in a panic, tried to stop him. Hey Naruto, wait. Alas, it was too late to regret. Rest in peace to you, Iruka's purse. After eating, Naruto walked slowly down the evening streets of Konoha with his hands in his pockets, heading towards his apartment. Mom, look! They sell takoyaki there. I want to. Oh, what can I do with you, Shizuka? Only one, okay? Yay! Naruto looked at the girl with her mother, and could not help but envy this happy child in his soul. But as soon as the girl's mother saw Naruto's gaze, she immediately frowned and quietly led the girl aside. T.S. Kicking the stone, the scowling Naruto headed on to his home. Going into his apartment, Naruto quickly washed up and walked over to his bed, flopped face down on it. Closing his eyes before falling asleep, he spoke softly. "Nothing has changed, I need to try harder." With these words, the blonde began to slowly fall asleep. It was at this moment, inside Naruto, the adaptation of the seal finally ended, and connecting with the blonde's chakra, it sent a strange wave through his body, making him flinch a little. Damn wind. Naruto mumbled half asleep, thinking he had forgotten to close the window. While he blamed the weather conditions, new neural connections appeared in his brain, through which the chakra began to flow, and words began to appear in front of his eyes, which gradually assembled into full-fledged text messages. Activation of the seal of legacy completed. Body scan completed. Memory scan completed. Drawing up training missions in progress. Completion time 8 hours. What a strange dream. Half asleep, Naruto muttered in surprise. After that, the blonde completely fell into the realm of dreams. Tutorial missions completed. Goes to standby for suitable events. What is it? Slowly opening his eyes, the sleepy blonde began to slowly look around. Not seeing anything unusual, he spoke. Another dream? Strange, but not important. It's time for me to get up anyway. Getting out of bed, Naruto took a quick shower, and after breakfast of instant ramen, he dressed in his orange suit and quickly headed to the ninja academy. He remembered that Iruka was going to take another practice exam in the clone's technique, and therefore, he was determined to finally complete this technique, and to prove to everyone that he was not a failure. Determined, he ran towards the academy, jumping from roof to roof, not forgetting to scare the newly awakened housewives who were collecting dried clothes. "Hey! Look where you run, you wretch! Hee hee hee! Today I feel so extraordinary, as if something good is about to happen. Maybe this is the day that I finally do the clone technique." The laughing blonde kept jumping on the rooftops until he finally got to his academy. There were many children around, most of whom came with their parents. And as usual, Naruto was given not very good looks, some of which hid fear and hatred, and Naruto still couldn't understand why. He had noticed for a long time that most of these looks are full of hatred, and it all began long before his pranks. Some even called him a demon, which further depressed and confused little Naruto, who had been alone for almost his entire life. Fortunately, when he became a local prankster, some of these looks of hatred were replaced by looks of irritation, which he liked much more. Alas, he quickly realized that this was not the most effective way to correct people's opinion of him. But he did not stop doing it just because he simply liked it, and he also received some portion of the attention, which he lacked so much. Thinking about all this, Naruto walked towards his class, and the closer he got, the louder he heard the noise and laughter of children. Not understanding what was happening, he quickened his pace and thought, "What is happening there? Are they discussing my prank?" Going into the classroom with these thoughts, Naruto saw two upset girls, at whom the class laughed, which was rather unusual, because earlier it was he who was the center of ridicule. Looking closer, he saw Ino's face overpainted with makeup, and Sakura, from which even at the entrance to the classroom he could smell a strange scent punching strongly in his nose, which was apparently the very perfume she was talking about. Moving his gaze to the highly annoyed Sasuke, Naruto realized that their attempt to get his attention had failed miserably. On the one hand, Naruto was glad because his chances with Sakura were still at the same level of minimal success, but on the other hand, he was sad for the girls, since he understood what it was like to be in their place. At that moment, the blonde was noticed by Kiba, and he immediately spoke. "Hey Naruto! Just look at this. Our eternal couple of Sasuke fans have finally delivered an unforgettable blow to our emo boy. Ha ha ha!" From his words, a vein in Sasuke's temple pouted, but he continued to sit silently, folding his fingers in front of his face, hardly tolerating the attention that was given to him because of two useless fans in his opinion. Seeing how annoyed Sasuke was, the girls could not stand it, and ran screaming from the class, heading towards the washstands to finally wash away their mistakes from themselves. Naruto finally came to his senses and looked at Kiba and asked, "Iruka-sensei hasn't come yet?" Since Kiba came not too long ago, he just shrugged, and a sleepy Shikamaru answered Naruto's question. He came, but he was called on some business, and he temporarily left. So he missed all the noise around Sasuke and his female fans. Oh, what a shame, because of this noise I never got a nap. Seeing his attitude, Naruto responded indignantly. How can you sleep while studying and still pass all tests and exams for a satisfactory result? He's probably cheating, or something like that. Kiba put in his word. Sighing, Shikamaru answered. I just know how to use my head. It won't hurt you two numbskulls to learn this. Hearing his remark, Naruto and Kiba were outraged. What did you say? Do you want to get problems? Shikamaru just sighed, and shaking his head, he headed to his seat to resume his nap. At that moment, Sasuke's annoyed and at the same time cold voice sounded. Too noisy annoying. Huh? Do you want to get it too? Kiba and Naruto put their legs on the table where Sasuke was sitting, and the three guys stared into each other's eyes. At that moment, Sakura and Ino returned to the class, and seeing that their beloved Sasuke was being threatened by two stupid students, they quickly squeezed in, sweeping both guys to the sides, and looking menacingly at them, resumed their attempts to get the attention of the gloomy Uchiha. Damn it, sometimes they remind me of women from my clan. The same wild. Kiba grumbled in annoyance, to which he received another malicious look from the girls, which made him make a wise choice to retreat and return to his desk as soon as possible. Naruto, who finally got a chance to speak, was about to go up to Sakura, but at that moment Iruka entered the class and spoke. So, good morning, students. Sit down all in their places, and for now I will check who is absent. Glancing around the class, he put the necessary checkmarks in his notebook, and making sure that they were all in place, he said with a smile. Great, all the students are in place. Now, as you all probably already know, one of our students vandalized the faces of the great Hokage. At that moment, everyone looked towards Naruto, making him scratch the back of his head in embarrassment. Seeing that everyone got it right, Iruka continued. And therefore, as a punishment, today we will pass a practice exam on the clones technique, as a practice, for further preparatory exams. What? No. Again, because of the lagging fool Naruto, the whole class suffers. Many children were indignant, and almost all of them looked menacingly at the sweating blonde. The only ones who did not throw lightning in Naruto were Sasuke, who did not care, Hinata, who internally encouraged our blonde not to despair in such a situation, and Shikamaru, who just woke up and did not yet understand what had happened. Returning his attention to himself, Iruka explained. Since you learned this technique not so long ago, I will give you a credit if you create at least one clone. But keep in mind that in the final exam after 2 years, you will need to create at least 2 or 3 clones. Did everyone understand everything? Hi, Sensei. The whole class responded in chorus. Nodding, Iruka began to gradually summon his students, testing them for their ability to create a clone. And everyone, more or less, coped with creating one clone, except for a couple of clanless children. The clones did not look very believable, but Iruka still counted this as a satisfactory result. And now, it was Naruto's turn. Naruto. Immediately after Iruka's announcement, the blonde headed towards the teacher and stood in front of the class. And as soon as he approached, the children began to shout. Iruka-sensei, there is no point in testing this loser, he has already failed to create a clone twice. It means that this time nothing will come of it. Right. Don't waste your time with him. Iruka glanced at the speakers and threatened. Hey, silence! Otherwise, I will add additional homework assignments to you. This threat alone gagged everyone who wanted to speak out more. They could only dejectedly drill the blonde with their looks. Standing in front of the class next to Iruka, Naruto threatened the speakers with his fist and stared at Sensei, waiting for the command to start. Seeing this, Iruka nodded and said, Okay, Naruto. You can start. Hi! With his hands folded into a standard seal, Naruto began to gather chakra to create a clone. Invisible chakra flows appeared around the guy, hinting at its abundant amount. When Naruto thought he had gained enough chakra, he said the name of the technique. Clone Jutsu. Poof! A cloud of smoke appeared and everyone watched closely, wondering if Naruto had succeeded or not. And they didn't have to wait long, as the smoke quickly cleared away, and on the floor lay a clone of Naruto, folded like a crumpled origami. After seeing Naruto perform the technique, the class began to laugh sharply, and those who had ridiculed the blonde before had a certain amount of pleasure in his suffering. After all, for the most part, they mocked him because, other than Naruto, their clones were the worst among the other classmates, and against the background of someone like a blonde, they felt better. Looking at Naruto's clone, Irika couldn't help but sigh and speak. You failed. You should practice this technique more, Naruto. Otherwise, you will never be able to pass the final exam in 2 years. Overwhelmed by his failure, Naruto staggered dejectedly to his desk. At that moment, Sakura was thinking. As expected, there is no one better than my Sasuke. Blonde Yamanaka, being more perceptive, was thinking about something else at that moment. Feeling his amount of chakra, for a second it seemed to me that he would succeed. Well, I guess the change is not about Naruto. Sucks, dude. At least something appeared this time. Last time there was nothing at all, said sleepy Shikamaru to his just-returned classmate. Shikamaru was one of the few who did not treat Naruto badly, and did not taunt him like the others. And it was difficult to say whether he was too lazy, or whether he just felt sorry for the blonde. Chai, sitting next to him, nodded in agreement with his friend while still eating his chips. Sighing, Naruto answered. And never mind, one day I'll do this technique. And I will have not 1 clone, but 5, no 10 clones. I just need to practice a little more, and then I will succeed, believe me. Seeing Naruto's never-ending optimism and faith in himself, Hinata sat in her place, and brought her fingers together, smiling sweetly, while thinking to herself. Naruto, you are so determined and you never lose heart, it gives me the confidence not to give up either. As Naruto wondered what the problem was with this technique, a message suddenly popped up in front of his eyes. Mission created: find out the reason for the difficulty in using the clone technique. Reward system UI update / shadow clone technique / chain of missions related to the origin of Naruto Uzumaki. Accept the mission? Yes / no. Huh? What is this? Seeing the incomprehensible messages in front of him, Naruto reached out to touch them, but all he achieved was to touch the back of Sasuke's head, thereby surprising the Uchiha and angering his fans. Even Shikamaru looked at the blonde in surprise, who only now realized what he had done. Abruptly removing his hand, Naruto laughed embarrassedly, looking at the indignant girls, and at the not understanding Sasuke. Pointing to the words floating in the air, he spoke. Hey, you also see these strange flying letters, what are they? What are you talking about, dunce? Sasuke asked, looking at the spot Naruto was pointing. Huh? Who do you call a dunce? Everyone in the class was already used to the blonde's antics, so they thought this was another prank of his. Everyone quickly returned their attention to Irika, whose eye was twitching as he was being ignored. Naruto! Stop distracting everyone from the lesson. Hi, Irika-sensei. Sitting down in his seat, Naruto stared at the messages in front of him, and after reading them, he was greatly surprised. What? Mission? Is it like a ninja mission? Affirmative. Accept the mission? Yes / no. Seeing that these words answered his thoughts, Naruto's eyes widened and he thought. What? Can it read my mind? Wow, it looks like it's some kind of fancy secret jutsu. Mission, huh? So, what are the awards? After reading the awards, he was amazed, because he was promised not only a new technique related to clones, but also information about his pedigree. He always regretted that he never had parents, and he would definitely not mind at least finding out who they are. Even if it was some kind of strange prank, he was ready to trust this opportunity. It's all very strange, but this weird thing with floating messages offers me mission rewards, and not bad ones too. But why are there question marks in front of my name? Do they mean something? And what is this shadow clone technique? Surely it is better than the usual cloning technique. Maybe it's easier for me to use it than the simple clone technique? It would be great. But first, I need to find a reason why I can't do the simple clone technique. Okay, I decided. Uzumaki Naruto never backs down from a challenge. I accept. Mission accepted. Lead time 3 days. To ask for a hint, think about your current mission, and internally say the word hint. The user can ask for a maximum of 2 hints per mission. If the mission fails, the user will receive a punishment in the form of a ban on the use of chakra until he understands the problem. Good luck. What? Naruto screamed as he leapt to his feet in the middle of the class, drawing the attention of all the students again. What particularly disliked Irika, who quickly took Naruto out and kicked him out of class for the rest of the lesson. Damn, looks like I really screwed up this time. With that said, Naruto expressed his thoughts on both the class situation and the mission situation. Sighing, the blonde turned on his brain for the first time in his life, trying to make a plan of action to find the cause of his problem. But realizing that he lacked knowledge, a terrible realization suddenly came to him. Oh no, it looks like I'll have to go to the library. Naruto, The Seal of Legacy Chapter 2 Library. Dejected, Naruto sat and pondered why he was failing the clone technique. He strongly didn't want to go to the library, as he was sure that everything would end with him simply falling asleep there. But unfortunately, he didn't see other solutions. Suddenly, he remembered Iruka-sensei. I wonder if Iruka-sensei knows anything about this? He's my last hope not to go to the library. Deciding to ask Iruka, Naruto waited until the lesson was over, and as soon as the door opened, Naruto immediately went inside. Sakura and Ino walked towards him, who, seeing a blonde friend walking towards them, thought that he would pester Sakura again. But what was their surprise when he completely ignored them and walked past towards Iruka-sensei. If Sakura was relieved, Ino found it a little odd. But one way or another, she didn't get hung up on this much, and after a second she continued her bickering with her pink-haired friend. When he reached Iruka, Naruto spoke up. Iruka-sensei, I have an important question for you. Iruka was quite surprised as Naruto had never approached him after class with questions before, especially after being punished. Putting the folder with the educational notes on the table, he turned to the blonde and answered. Yes, Naruto, what's the matter? Iruka-sensei, can you tell me why I can't do the clone jutsu? I urgently need to find out, very urgent. Raising an eyebrow, Iruka answered. Isn't this the result of a lack of practice? You don't show the impression of someone who loves to study or practice. And in general, where are you in such a hurry? If you are afraid of the exam in 2 years, then do not worry. I am sure that this time will be enough for you to catch up with the rest of the students. No, you don't understand. I am not worried about the exam. Naruto Uzumaki will never be afraid of the exam. But due to certain circumstances, I need to understand why I can't get a clone jutsu. Iruka looked at his student strangely, and after thinking for a few seconds answered. Well, I cannot look for the answer for you. After all, I am your teacher, and I must guide you to strive to find the answer on your own. Affirmative. To Naruto's surprise, even the system agreed with Iruka's words, making the young Uzumaki even more depressed. Iruka continued. But what I can advise you is to practice your chakra control. Good control is one of the main foundations of all ninja techniques. Chakra control? I've always had problems with that. Smiling, Iruka said. Well, I think that when you find out why you are not good at the clone technique, you will also understand why chakra control is given to you worse than others. I got it. Dropping his shoulders, Naruto turned around and walked slowly towards the library. Iruka gave him a strange look, and shrugged his shoulders and went back to collecting documents. Leaving the classroom, Naruto headed towards the academy library. This place is specially created for all students wishing to improve their knowledge, or learn the history of the shinobi of all villages. Its only drawback is that knowledge there is very limited by the level of the students of the academy. Even a non-reading person like Naruto knew about it. But he hoped that the problem with the curriculum should be described in at least one of the scrolls. Entering the library, a Chunin librarian blocked his way. Glancing at the blonde with a hint of contempt and disgust, he said, Pests are not allowed to enter the library. Naruto was expecting something like this. He hadn't been allowed into the library before, which is why he never got a good mark on his exams, and disappointed in learning, he stopped trying to fill his head with knowledge and instead concentrated on exercise. But this time, Naruto couldn't afford to turn around and leave, so he decided to do what he does best, outsmart another Chunin. I wouldn't be here myself, but Iruka-sensei wanted me to find some materials for the exam. So I came here at his request to bring up my knowledge. The Chunin librarian knew Iruka's attitude towards Naruto, and therefore did not think too much about whether this was true or not. And in order not to get problems from Iruka, who could report to the Hokage about his illegal actions within the walls of the academy to keep the student from receiving academic knowledge and scrolls, he decided to skip the boy this time, not forgetting to poke with indignation. Such knowledge for someone like you come in. Smiling, Naruto entered the library, completely forgetting about this guy. He looked around the room curiously, with a bunch of shelves filled with scrolls. He hadn't been here before, and he was curious how everything worked. Noticing the sorting of shelves by letter, he began to look for the name of the cloning technique. After a few minutes of searching, he found the section he needed, and taking several of the corresponding scrolls, he went to the table for the readers, and settled on it, unrolled the scroll. So, let's see what is wrong with this technique, that I just can't do it. Fortunately and unfortunately at the same time, there was not much text, but at the same time, this meant that the amount of information was too little. Finding the beginning of the text with his eyes, Naruto began to read aloud. Clone jutsu is a standard technique taught at the academy. Ninjutsu, which creates an immaterial copy of its own body, without any substance. Since the clone itself does not have the ability to attack, and thus can only be used to confuse the enemy, it is mainly used in conjunction with other ninjutsu. This is a basic skill, but depending on the ingenuity of the user, it can be used quite effectively. Clones scatter upon contact with anything. The number of clones depends on the amount of chakra spent. Fortunately, the chakra consumption of the technique is extremely low, and even a student of the Shinobi Academy can easily perform it. Curling his face, Naruto said. Yeah, right. If it consumes very little chakra, then why is it so difficult to do? Is it really about chakra control? Or do I have too little of it? After checking the rest of the scroll, Naruto only found the details for the technique itself, which he already knew. Taking another scroll, he also began to study it. After 30 minutes of constantly reading various scrolls that he thought might help, he sighed in rue and collapsed on the table. Damn, I found so many things related to this technique and chakra in principle, but I still don't understand what exactly my problem is. Databeo. Reminder. The user can ask the system for 2 prompts. Startled, Naruto jumped to his feet and said, That's right, I almost forgot about it. Oh, and it looks like this thing is called a system. Sounds a little strange, but it doesn't matter now. Hey System-chan, give me a hint. Affirmative. The system advises the user to find a scroll describing how to quantify their chakra. What? And how does this help me find out what my problem is? Unless I realize that I simply do not have enough chakra for this. But I don't remember running out of it, so this is hardly a problem, right? Arg. Okay. The annoyed blonde went in search of the necessary scroll, which turned out to be far from an easy task. Due to ignorance of all the terms and names, it took Naruto at least 40 minutes to find the scroll he needed. Damn, how difficult it is to look for something that you never knew about. Thank God the name of this scroll was mentioned in another scroll about the history of the chakra. Looking at all the unfolded and read scrolls around him, Naruto smiled wryly and thought. Just think about it. In the last hour, I've read more than in the last year. And I don't even know it was tiring, but at least not as boring as I originally thought. Returning his attention to the recently found scroll, he unwrapped it without wasting time and began reading about a way to find out the amount of his chakra. Reading it, Naruto was surprised, because as it turned out, this method was invented a long time ago, and it was not used even before the founding of Konoha, since the technique used for this was poorly adapted for people who have a lot of chakra, and had a disadvantage in the form of which could absorb from half to the full volume of the user's chakra. Naruto was a bit brooding about whether to try this method or not. But since there were no other alternatives in the Academy's libraries, he decided to just do it. To hell it. In any case, if I do not deal with this problem, the consequences will be worse than chakra depletion. Fortunately for Naruto, the technique was extremely simple, with only 3 seals, and the direction of the chakra flows for this was very primitive, so even someone like him could do it even without practice. Judging by the scroll, when he performs this technique, a cloud of smoke should appear, and the larger the cloud, the more chakra you have. While a watermelon-sized cloud is considered a small amount, then a human-sized cloud means the average and most common amount among ordinary shinobi. Anything that exceeds this volume usually manifests itself in clan shinobi, jounin, or people of the Kage level. Hoping for the size of at least a human, Naruto made seals and directed the chakra as described in the scroll. Very quickly, a wave enveloped his chakra reserve, and then, a little more than half of his reserve was instantly absorbed by the technique, shocking young Uzumaki, since this is the first time he felt so drained in his entire life. But before he had time to be surprised, before his eyes, a chakra began to form, which gradually took the form of a ball of smoke, and as soon as the transformation was completed, a small explosion occurred, and the ball of smoke expanded at an incredible speed, filling a third of the library with smoke, covering many shelves with scrolls. Wha? Kaka! What the hell? Strongly amazed by what he saw, young Uzumaki looked at the amount of smoke that he created, and nervously swallowed, said, Do I really have that much chakra? I am damn. If I have so much chakra, then why the hell I can't do this damn clone jutsu, databeo? Am I cursed? Sighing dejectedly, young Uzumaki was about to take the scroll again, but did not have time, as an angry and annoyed Chunin librarian appeared behind Naruto, and crossed his arms, sawing him with a glance. Noticing this, Naruto smiled wryly as he scratched the back of his head and said, "Oh, hey, I kind of used a technique that displays my chakra amount. It turns out I have a lot of it, can you imagine?" "Stop lying. I suppose you decided to do one of your pranks again, didn't you?" "What?" "No, look, all these scrolls I use for research and study, and they all have already been read by me." "Oh, really? Okay then." Taking a random scroll, the Chunin said, "Now I'll ask you a couple of questions from this scroll, and if you cannot answer it, then it means that you lied. And I will be forced to forbid you to visit this library forever. What do you say, is it coming?" Although Naruto was not one of those people who remember anything well, but when he read the scrolls, driven by the goal of finding the information he needed, he noticed that he easily remembered most of the topics and things described in them. Difficulties arose only with unfamiliar terms and words. But overall, he was confident that he could answer any question. Raising an eyebrow, the Chunin glanced at the scroll in displeasure and asked Naruto a question. "Then how is the chakra formed, and from what?" After thinking a little, the blonde smiled happily, as he knows the answer. Chakra is formed by combining physical and spiritual energy, and it can be used to perform various techniques in 3 different ways. The first and most common method is seals. The second is the directing of chakra into the body to strengthen it, and the third method, the most difficult, but very effective, is the extraction of chakra into various forms without seals, with the help of long-term training on chakra control. Hearing such a detailed explanation, the Chunin was extremely surprised, because all he heard about this child was that he was the most lagging student of all, and that his knowledge was the worst in the academy. Once again looking around, and having examined all the unrolled scrolls, and also seeing the almost scattered smoke, which did not cause any destruction, he could only swallow his indignation and speak. "Well, I see you really do work hard. I can allow you to continue visiting the library, but only if you no longer try to use the techniques described here in the library room. Is it clear?" Not expecting such a turn, and such a change in the man's gaze, Naruto smiled happily and answered, "I give you my word, Databeo." With a nod, the Chunin returned to his seat while the joyful Naruto thought to himself, "Wow! So this is how it feels to know all the answers to the test. Damn it, maybe the idea of going to the library is not so bad?" Affirmative. PF, even the system encourages me to do this well. First I need to solve the clone jutsu problem, and then I'll think about the rest. Stop, I found out that I have a lot of chakra, and then what? A puzzled Uzumaki sat on the floor with his legs and arms crossed, pondering the answer, but even after reading all these scrolls about the basic properties of chakra, and knowing his amount, he still could not understand what his problem was. Finding no other way out, he turned to the system again. "Hey, System-chan. I still don't understand what's the matter. May I get a second hint?" Affirmative. Head to the store and buy a large bottle of water. And then, unscrew the cap and try to fill it exactly to the brim with this very water. Huh! What is this for? Is this exactly related to my problem? Affirmative. Okay. After putting all the scrolls back into place to maintain his good image for the Chunin librarian, Naruto left the library and headed for the store. Unfortunately, in the first store he was refused a sale, which again angered the blonde, but in the next store the seller did not refuse him, but raised the price so much that at the normal price you could buy 2 such bottles, and another bag of juice in addition. With no other alternative, he gave up a third of his pocket money for this purchase and headed to an abandoned training ground where he usually liked to train alone. Sitting on the ground, Naruto unscrewed the cork from the plastic bottle and turned it over, without much enthusiasm trying to fill it with water. Unfortunately, he instantly overfilled it, and some of the water spilled onto his pants, taking with it some of the liquid from the cap itself, leaving it half empty. Ah, damn it! This is harder than it sounds. But I still do not understand what is the connection with the clone technique. Repeat. Over time, the user will find the answer. Looking skeptically at the bottle cap, Naruto tilts the bottle again to try to fill it gently with water, but again fails to do it perfectly and spills some water. In addition, his other hand twitches slightly because of this, and he also spills water from the cap. Pouting with frustration, Naruto screwed the lid back on and crossed his arms in exasperation. The heck? It's hard, Databeo. And I still don't understand what the connection is. The only similarity I see is that neither the clone technique nor the filling of the cap with water, I just fail. Affirmative. Haha, very funny. If this is the connection you meant, then it sucks, because I still don't understand a damn thing. That it is difficult for me to create a clone, that it is difficult for me to fill the cap with water. Unless it's easier to understand why I'm not doing well with water. Wait a minute. Taking the bottle again, and unscrewing the cap, Naruto looked at the bottle full of water and said, "Come to think of it, the problem with the bottle and the cork is that the bottle is too big and has too much water, and it takes some practice and precision to fill the cap perfectly." Then, remembering that he had a huge amount of chakra, Naruto continued, "Then, if the bottle is me, and the water is my chakra, then the cork is a clone jutsu?" Finally, in Naruto's head, everything fell into place, and he jumped happily and screamed, "Yada! I understand now. I cannot do the clone technique because it requires an extremely small amount of chakra, but with my huge amount of chakra, it is like pouring water from a large bottle into a small cork." And when Irika-sensei talked about chakra control, he also noticed that I can immediately understand why I need more time than others. Due to such a large volume, it is very difficult to control it. Then, in order to solve this problem, I need to learn perfect control to separate small chakra volumes for the necessary techniques. Hey, if you think about it, then my chakra costs will also decrease, since I will not pour in too much. Affirmative. Congratulations. Mission complete. The system interface will be updated within 10 hours. The technique of shadow cloning is obtained. For instructions on how to use it, think about it, and the information will float before your eyes. Unlock a chain of missions about the user's pedigree. Find out the secret of the Uzumaki surname. Rewards: 1. Next mission in the chain /2, temporarily hidden. Accept? Yes/no. Mission acquired secret of shadow clones. Learn the technique of shadow clones, and find out its secret. Reward training program with, temporarily closed. Accept? Yes/no. Naruto goggled at the received messages before his eyes. Wow! So many things. And it looks like it was just the beginning. Well, the first mission will most likely lead me to the library again. Although I don't think I'll find anything about my last name, I don't think it's a clan name, and if so, it's most likely the name of an insignificant clan, since I've never heard of it, and in general I grew up in an orphanage. But as for the other mission, it is much more interesting. Okay, I accept both missions. Affirmative. Missions accepted. The validity period for both missions is 2 days. Punishment: banning the use of chakra for a month. What? This is even tougher than the past. Startled, Naruto resented for a while, but then taking a deep breath, he smiled and said, "Okay, Naruto Uzumaki won't back down, even if chakra use is at stake. Believe me." And now, after thinking about the shadow cloning technique, Naruto got all the information on using it and continued, "I'll try to learn this new shadow clone jutsu. Kagebushin no Jutsu." Poof poof poof. Tired and a little dirty, Naruto stood with a slight smile in front of his 3 newly created clones, and could not contain his joy. "Finally! I got normal clones!" "Normal? We are the best clones this world has seen." Right. Now, no one will laugh at us and call us laggards or losers." Yeah. Naruto's clones shared his joy and enthusiasm, smugly praising themselves. One of the clones suddenly remembered something, and referring to the original said, "Hey boss, didn't we need to learn some secret from this technique?" Huh. Oh. That's right, the mission said to learn the technique, and find out its secret. Affirmative. That's the answer. X3. Said all 4 Naruto at the same time, and wincing from it afterwards. The original Naruto looked at his clones and asked, "Did you also receive a response from the system-chan?" All 3 nodded. "Wow, I didn't think you would see it, but I think it's even better." Seeing satisfied smiles and nods from the clones, he looked them over and said, "So, since we are going to find out the secrets of this technique, then first, I think it makes sense to ask you. Do you know anything about this?" The 3 clones looked at each other and answered with a shrug. "Nope. Nothing. I know no more than you do." With an annoyed poke, Naruto said, "TSS, how useless they are." To which he quickly received a group response. "Same as you, Databeo." Covering his ears from their bickering, Naruto sighed and spoke. "Okay. If you don't know anything, then we will arrange experiments, and I need a volunteer. So I will choose one of you." Raising a hand to his chin, he pretended to make a difficult decision, looking at them, making them nervous as he did so. And so, he finally pointed to the clone on the left. Here, you. You will help me figure out this technical secret. The others are free. What? Me? Surprised clone, pointing at himself with a finger. The others grinned maliciously and said, Well, we will remember you. Poof. Yeah, good luck. Poof. Traitors. Left alone with his clone, Naruto began to walk around him, carefully examining him. But finding nothing strange, he just sighed irritably. Damn, I don't see anything out of the ordinary. Well, I am your clone, it will hardly be different. Naruto tried to test the clone by pulling slightly on his arms, hair, and legs. But the clone was a complete copy of him, and even annoyed just like himself. Then, he asked the clone to try using the body replacement technique, which he did quite easily. But this, in fact, did not reveal any secrets for him. Is that the fact that clones can also perform techniques? Both Naruto sighed dejectedly and sat down on the ground. The original looked at the branches of the trembling tree and said, Maybe there is no secret here. Like, learn, then understand? To which the clone answered him, Well, then System-chan would have reported the mission complete, right? Truth. Suddenly, the clone dawned on him, and he said, Hey, maybe instead of guessing for nothing, we'll just use the hint again. I think I can, but I just thought it would be great to figure it out on my own. It was nice when I was able to answer the question on my own. Yes, here you are right, but we have already tried some ideas, and they did not work, so it makes sense to spend at least one hint of the system, and solve everything without using the second. Compared to the last mission, this should be considered progress, right? After thinking, the original Naruto nodded and said with a smile, You're right, Databeo. At least this time I have to manage without a second hint. Great, Naruto clone, good job, you can go to the others. The clone nodded, pleased with the praise, and then puffed out a cloud of smoke. The original Naruto gathered his thoughts and turned to the system. System-chan, I want to take the mission hint about the shadow clone technique. Affirmative. Create 2 shadow clones, give them call signs, and send them to a distant place to play the game, rock, paper, scissors. After playing, they can be dispelled immediately. Huh! It was the strangest clue he could expect. Naruto couldn't even find the words to comment on this. This is strange. But the system didn't respond, which forced Naruto to sigh in humility and just try. In any case, he will not lose anything. And the last tip worked, so he has some confidence. Kagebushin no Jutsu. The 2 clones immediately appeared in the clouds of smoke, with the same doubting faces. Looking at them, Naruto thought for a bit and said, So, you will be Sasuke on the left. And you, on the right, Naruto. Your task is to kick Sasuke's ass into rock, paper, scissors, so I hope you win. Hey, why should I be this emo boy? Couldn't think of a better one? Ha! Just humble yourself and play the role of the underdog for me, called the great Naruto. The second clone could not help but mock the first. Seeing their bickering, Naruto got annoyed and said, Hey, stop fooling around, and go do what the system said. Both clones shuddered, and remembering why they had been summoned, they quickly set off in an unknown direction to fulfill their plans. At this time, Naruto sighed and thought, Well, since they will disappear anyway, I think it doesn't matter if I stay here or not. Then, before it's too late, I think it makes sense to look into the library of the village, and look for information about my last name. As far as I know, there should definitely be a history of all the Konoha clans. Well, at least I hope. Otherwise, usually all books and scrolls contain only information about the clans that helped build Konoha. Driven by this idea, Naruto brushed off some of his clothes and left the training ground, walking towards the library. As usual, some of the villagers looked at him extremely unfriendly, but this time, Naruto paid less attention to them, as his thoughts were completely different. He began to wonder where this system came from and why it gives him various missions. He was absolutely not against it, because receiving such missions, he could feel like a real ninja, and he also receives good rewards that make him stronger. Finally reaching the library, Naruto went inside, and although many of those present frowned at the sight of the blonde in the room, they still did not try to start the conflict that occurred when he was younger. But now that he has grown older, and goes to the ninja academy, ordinary residents tried in vain not to climb on a possible future shinobi, swallowing their displeasure that arose because of him. Naruto didn't ask the librarian for directions, as he knew he was likely to be ignored. He walked slowly along the shelves, walking along the marks, arranged in the same alphabetical order as in the library of the academy. Finding the necessary sector, Naruto went there and began to look for the scrolls and rarely seen books he needed. It was at this moment that he stood rooted to the spot, and then groaned. Damn. Even in rock paper scissors, I lose to Sasuke, even if he is my clone. Moreover, they played more than 10 rounds, but the Naruto clone won only 2 times. How did it happen, Dadabayo? Dejected, Naruto suddenly looked around and finally realized something strange. Wait a minute, I'm in the library, what the hell do I know what happened to those 2? After dropping down for a few seconds, the young Uzumaki finally dawned. No way, don't tell me that everything that my clones see and hear is transmitted to me? Affirmative. Mission: to learn the technique of shadow clones and discover its secret. Completed. Reward: multiple shadow clone training program. To access it, the user must think about it. Wow, this is a really awesome feature. With this, I will be able to find information about my last name much faster. Okay. Kagebushin no Jutsu. Poof, poof, poof. 3 clones immediately appeared in front of him, and without further ado, dispersed, typing all the books on the history of the clans. Naruto then created another clone, which headed to the different letter section to try and find direct information on the name Uzumaki. That's better. Now that thing will go. In the meantime, I read what I have already taken in my hands. Satisfied, the blonde Uzumaki began to study all the scrolls he found, and his clones did the same. Over time, he learned more about the current clans, as well as some of his classmates. Yeah, it is not surprising that they never had serious problems with their studies at the academy. Further, he finally reached the less significant clans, but among them there was no information related to the Uzumaki surname. Suddenly, one of his clones came up to him from behind and said, "Hey boss, I found something interesting here." Naruto glanced at the book with 2 characters painted on it, the Konoha leaf, and the spiral that all shinobi wear on their uniforms, as does Naruto himself. He nodded, and taking the book in his hands read its title. The history of the creation of Konoha, and the clans involved. Do you think there will be something about Uzumaki? How do I know? I just thought that any information related to history would be useful to us. Truth. Okay, then keep looking, and I'll read this one for now. If you find anything else, read it yourself. Anyway, I will have to get your memory later. The clone nodded, and went further in search of information. Returning his attention to the book, Naruto opened it and plunged into the text. After 20 minutes of reading, Naruto's eyes widened as he finally found confirmation that Uzumaki is the clan name. And not just a clan, but a clan that had a relationship with the Senju clan, from which the first Hokage came. Cannot be. If this was one of the clans involved in the creation of Konoha, then why is there so little information about it? Reading further, he learned that the symbol of the spiral that he and all the other Konoha shinobi wears is also the symbol of the Uzumaki clan, added as a sign of friendship between them and the Senju clan. Wow, just wow. And all this time, I didn't know it. Damn, I should have visited the library a long time ago, Dadabayo. He also learned about the rest of the clan's involvement in Konoha, proving that it was a very large and important clan in shinobi history. But on this, the information is cut off. The only thing that is written is that now this clan is destroyed. How so? Where is the rest of the information? Naruto nervously flipped through all the pages but couldn't find anything. Frustrated, he thought, and wished to speed up the search for information with his clones, and in order not to run and search for them, he decided to try out one idea. Having created a clone, he immediately dispelled it, in the hope that information from him would be passed on to his other clones. And he turned out to be right, because literally a minute later, a clone came to him, which was sent to another department, to look for any information by the name of Uzumaki. Hey boss, I got the information. It's a little difficult to grasp, but now I understand what's the matter. Here, I found a book on the history of Uzumaki, and all this time I was sitting and reading it. I think you need to find out about this. Saying that, he immediately dissipated, which instantly caused a slight tingling sensation in Naruto's head, due to the sudden flow of information from the half-hour reading with the clone. His eyes widened immediately, for he now knew quite a bit about the Uzumaki clan, his clan. And also about how he was destroyed, which made him feel very uncomfortable. Looking at the book that his clone brought, Naruto scattered the remaining clones, and returning the scrolls to their place, went to the librarian to take this book home, since the clone managed to read only a quarter of the entire book. After signing and receiving the ticket, Naruto quickly ran home to finish reading this book as soon as possible. Now he was eager to learn as much as possible about his clan, about his possible family, because he simply could not believe that he was the last Uzumaki. If he is alive, then there may well be others like him, lonely and not knowing their home. The thought of this tormented and warmed his soul at the same time. Arriving at his house, Naruto went to the kitchen, made himself instant ramen, and began to read, along the way eating his favorite dish. A few hours later, one could see the blonde asleep at the table, lying face down on the last page of a small book. Such a long reading session squeezed all the mental juices out of his unaccustomed brain. At that very moment, in his head, the seal of legacy was creating new neural connections, adapting its interface even deeper and better in his head, while helping the brain to deal with information more easily by building additional connections in the departments that were active during reading and assimilation of information. Updating the seal of legacy system completed. Interface integration completed. Primary maintenance of neurobrain activity completed. Sorting data and missions completed. End of update. Upon waking up, Naruto felt a strange and extraordinary lightness. He was very surprised, because this lightness was not something connected with his body, and did not concern anything physical at all. It was a feeling as if he had removed a light veil from his eyes, and now everything looked a little different. No, his vision hasn't changed in any way. His view of things around him has changed. How strange. For Naruto, everything seemed to make more sense. Wherever he looked, in his head every now and then flashed different memories of the moments when and where he interacted with this or that object. It was a strange and unusual feeling for him. Usually, he did not remember the details of his life so well, let alone remember what exactly and when he did at one point or another. What's the matter, Databeo? Is reading really as good for the brain as they say it is? Young Uzumaki scratched his head, recalling yesterday, and to his surprise these memories seemed so accessible and clear that he was momentarily lost in them, until he completely walked through yesterday and remembered the most important thing. Oh, right. My clan. System-chan, are you still here? I learned everything about my last name. As soon as he called the system, strange images of floating scrolls with different colors and with different signatures appeared before his eyes. All the scrolls were located in certain places, while one of them was slightly larger and opened. The open scroll contained an inscription of the system informing about the completion of the mission, as well as a field to confirm the receipt of the award. What the hell happened to my head while I was sleeping? Why did these images become even more complex and varied? Naruto finally began to think about this strange system that had appeared in his head, and he was worried if he was losing his mind due to constant loneliness, or if he had fallen under some strange genjutsu. But remembering how much he learned, and how this system guided him to this knowledge, he could not call it ordinary hallucinations, or an illusion. Damn, this is all very difficult. There is also this oddity with my memory. Is this all due to the system? Affirmative. A message from the system surfaced, and not in a scroll, but in a small, separate, and transparent window that reminded him of an ordinary white sheet of paper. The text was as if it had been written in ink. This difference from yesterday's manifestation of the system made Naruto a little alarmed, but when he remembered yesterday's mention of mission rewards, he realized that all this had something to do with the reward for updating the interface of the system. He saw no other explanation. Turning his attention to accepting the award, he quickly agreed, and immediately a new scroll appeared, with a new mission. So, as stated in the award, I received the next mission in what was it called there? A Hain? Affirmative. After examining the new scroll, he noticed a striking difference from the previous missions. This time, on the scroll was the designation of the mission rank. Looking at this, Naruto smiled contentedly as it looked more and more like real ninja missions. Wow, this is my first ranked mission, and I'm still a student at the academy. And who's laughing now, huh? The great Naruto Uzumaki became a real shinobi before anyone else. Besides, I started right away from rank C. As he thought about it, Naruto remembered something. But if I remember correctly, genin are given D rank missions in the beginning, and only then they receive C rank missions. Isn't it too early for me to do this? Or is it just that I'm so awesome that I can start right away at C rank? Naruto chuckled softly, fantasizing about his greatness, but putting the jokes aside, he mentally unrolled the scroll to finally find out the purpose of this mission. Looking around the scroll, he also noticed the classification of this mission. Search and reconnaissance? So now the missions will have not only a rank, but also a classification. Nice to know. So what do I need to do? Mission classification search/reconnaissance. Grade C. Mission: find the place of residence of the 4th Hokage, and find out the secret of his family hidden from everyone. Mission time 3 days. Completion reward: introduction to Fuin talking to, temporarily unavailable. Accept? Yes/no. Realizing what this task was, Naruto's eyes widened in shock, because he clearly didn't expect something like this. The 4th Hokage was the hero of the village, and finding and then getting into his house would definitely be a challenge. Among other things, he needs to find out a secret, which, according to the system, was for some reason hidden from everyone. Naruto still wasn't smart enough to figure it all out based on this information alone, but he was determined to find out. After all, no matter how much he desecrated the monuments of the Hokage, he always admired the 4th. He was exactly what Naruto was aiming for. Yondaime is a shinobi capable of instilling fear in his enemies with just his name and presence. But this was not the only reason for his actions. He also wanted to receive the reward that was promised to him for his accomplishment. Damn, the introduction to Fuin is really a surprise. As I understand it, my clan was very good at everything related to Fuin's techniques. Although I'm not very good at school, at least learning a couple of useful seals would be really cool. I can already imagine Sasuke's face when I take out a bowl of ramen from the storage seal, which I personally created, right in front of him. Ha ha ha! Young Uzumaki still didn't know that storage and explosion seals are not all that Fuin seals are capable of, but when he delves into the study, unexpected surprises and big changes await him. Looking at the time, Naruto realized that there was very little time left before the lessons at the academy, and therefore, he put another bowl of ramen to brew, and in the meantime took a refreshing shower. After a shower and breakfast, Naruto pulled himself together and dashed towards the academy, contemplating a plan to locate the 4th Hokage's home along the way. How can I find his home? Wasn't it supposed to be some kind of famous place? Although, wait, he was a ninja, which means he had a lot of enemies. Then it makes sense that his place of residence is not as well known and widespread as the usual ones. By the way, if you think about it, did he have a family, or did he live alone? I think I'll start my search by finding out. Thinking about this, Naruto had already reached the academy, and passing by his classmates, he suddenly stopped at Hinata's desk and looked at her intently, thinking. By the way, such large clans as Hyuga or the like should know about how the 4th Hokage used to live, and whether he had a family, right? Perhaps Hinata knows something about this. While the brooding blonde looked at Hinata, she became all nervous and flushed, not knowing why Naruto was staring at her so intently, and what to do. And Naruto-kun, why are you? Hearing her words, Naruto decided to ask, and so he smiled at her, and bringing his face closer, thereby further embarrassing the tomato-red girl, he said, Hey, Hinata, I want to ask you something very important. Hinata blushed even more after hearing such a phrase. Seeing her strange reaction, Naruto remembered that this was not the first time, but decided to put this question aside for now, since the matter was important, and therefore, he continued. It's about something personal, so I'd like to talk to you, just me and you, if you don't mind? Just me and you? This part echoed in the young Hyuga's head, which was the last straw for the shy girl. As a result, steam literally poured out of her ears, and the girl herself lost consciousness, lying on her table, with a funny and dreamy smile. Naruto stood and looked at all this with a strange expression on his face, not knowing what to do. So he just sighed and headed for his seat. Fortunately, no one attached much importance to this, since no one looked in the direction of Naruto, which helped to pass this event unnoticed. Sitting at his desk, Naruto waited for the start of the class, and finally Mizuki-sensei entered the classroom, and after a quick introduction, he handed out all the sheets with questions for a little simple test. Upon receiving his sheet, Naruto's face frowned, as he did not remember even half of what was asked in the questions of this test. Looking around, he saw that almost all the students calmly answered questions, almost without straining at the moment. After going over the questions again, Naruto could barely answer a third of them. Seeing no alternatives, he quickly wrote the solution where he knew the answer, and because it took less time, he put his pencil aside and thought. Damn, this is all very suspicious. Why are these easy verification tests always so hard? Even today, when my memory is working better for some reason, I still can hardly understand these tasks. We definitely did not go through these topics. Now that I've thought about it, my tests have always been very difficult, haven't they? Looking at Mizuki-sensei, who also looked at him with a strange grin, but as soon as their gazes met, the teacher immediately averted his gaze, completely ignoring the young Uzumaki. This seemed a little suspicious to Naruto, so he thought, How strange, I think it will not be superfluous to make sure. There are just over 5 minutes left until the end of the test, so I think I should have enough time. Taking out a blank piece of paper, Naruto began to quickly transfer the contents of the test onto a blank sheet. Do not forget to redraw all the fields, figures and numbers, exactly as it was in the test. And so, when Mizuki-sensei announced that the time for the test was up, Naruto had just finished copying the test onto a piece of paper. Hiding it in his pocket, Naruto waited for his test to be taken, which, as usual, would happen last. Because of which, most of the students have already left. And there were only Sasuke, whose work was usually taken by the penultimate, several of his fans waiting for him, and Naruto himself. Taking Sasuke's job, Mizuki-sensei smiled and praised him out loud. Excellent, Sasuke-kun. Which is to be expected from our most promising student. Yes, our Sasuke-kun is always the best. This praise only raised the gloomy and cold Uchiha in the eyes of his fans. At that time, Mizuki looked behind Sasuke. And now? After looking at Naruto, Mizuki walked over to his desk, and taking his test, he looked at it with a smile, but then suddenly frowned a little as he saw something strange. Seeing this, Naruto immediately asked, "Is there something wrong, Mizuki-sensei?" Seeing the young Uzumaki's gaze, Mizuki put on a smile and replied, "Oh yes. I'm just a little surprised, because usually, you could not answer more than one question, but this time you were able to answer at least a third of them. So I was a little surprised. Looks like someone has been studying hard lately. Well, keep it up." Although he said so, Naruto could see his grim expression as he left, which Naruto had seen so many times before to confuse it with anything else. This caused a very unpleasant impression of this man in young Uzumaki. He had never noticed anything like this before, but now, thinking about it, he could easily recall all these small moments, which together could very well indicate that Mizuki-sensei has the same incomprehensible dislike for him as most of the villagers, except because he is a shinobi, he could hide it pretty well. "Hey, Sakura-chan, Ino, can I talk to you for a second?" Ino, on the other hand, was a little surprised that he turned to her as well, since it was usually only Sakura. Therefore, as the heiress of the Yamanaka clan, she began to analyze his behavior. If this is not another attempt by Naruto to invite Sakura for a walk, then perhaps he wanted to do one of his pranks. Although Sakura is with me, and even a fool like him would not prank a girl who, obviously to everyone except herself, he likes, right? Thinking in a similar vein, the blonde also turned to the blonde. When both girls met his gaze, Sakura spoke first. "What do you want, Naruto Baka?" Seeing her irritation, hundreds of memories related to Sakura and her attitude towards him immediately began to run through Naruto's head. From this, Naruto even developed a very unpleasant feeling inside, causing him to feel double. On the one hand, it was a girl that he liked, on the other hand, when his new memory threw similar pictures to him, he felt some disappointment both in her and in himself. Taking a deep breath, Naruto decided to finally stop thinking about the bad and rethink his approach to this girl, temporarily stopping his attempts to get closer to her. That is why, with a slightly complex smile, he answered, "Actually, it's nothing, Sakura-chan. I wanted to talk to Ino. So if you are in a hurry somewhere, then you can move on." Such a statement has already surprised not only Ino, but also Sakura. The pink-haired kunoichi looked strangely at the blonde and shrugged her shoulders and turned to her friend with a sly smile. "Well then, good luck to stay, Ino-pig. While you're here I'll go and keep Sasuke company." With these words, the pink-haired girl ran away, under the irritated gaze of her friend. Sighing bitterly, the girl looked at Naruto and asked, drooping, "Well, Naruto, what was it you wanted to talk about?" Taking a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket, he handed it to Ino. Seeing this, the girl at first didn't understand what it was, but then a very strange thought occurred to her. "Don't tell me this is a love letter of confession. Listen, Naruto, I certainly understand that I am a beauty, but..." "What? Of course not. If I was going to confess to someone, I would not use such snotty methods, but would say it right in her face." This confident tone and solemn face of Naruto made Ino even a little taken aback, but quickly pulled herself together and answered, "Then what is it?" "This is the test that I answered today. I would like you to take a look at this." Rolling her eyes, Ino frowned and unfolded the paper to answer. "So, why should I look at your test if I had the same weight? What is it?" As soon as Ino saw the contents of this test, her eyes immediately widened, since this test was completely different. Seeing her confusion, Naruto asked, "Well? Did you have the same, or not?" "The same?" This is a completely different test. Damn, I think I can hardly answer half of these questions at best. Sigh as I thought. Thank you for your answer. Not understanding what was happening, Ino said. Wait, what does that mean? You said it was your test today, doesn't that mean there was a mistake? I'm not sure about that. But it doesn't matter now, I have one more question for you. Huh? Ino was completely confused seeing his attitude towards this issue, but she still wondered what he would ask this time. You are also from a renowned and influential clan, right? Well, obviously. It's not for nothing that my last name is Yamanaka. What is it? I need a little more detailed information about previous Hokages, which is very difficult to find in ordinary libraries, and therefore, I wanted to ask if there are books with similar information in your clan. Does Naruto visiting the library? Wow. Surprised by his question, Ino thought for a couple of seconds and answered. Well, I can't answer for sure, but I can definitely say that our clan has its own small library. Well, rather, it's just 3 bookcases with different books that any member of our clan can use. So I might as well watch this book for you. But the main question remains, why do you need this information? Hearing her question, Naruto became nervous as he realized how strange and suspicious his mission was. So, looking away, he answered nervously. Well, you know I was here studying information about my clan, and found out that the first Hokage was married to a woman from my clan. And well, I wanted to know more about all this. And I could not find information about the 4th Hokage, so I turned to you. Looking at him with round eyes, Ino blinked slightly, then laughed, and answered. Ha ha ha! Your clan? God, Naruto, if you were going to lie, you would have come up with something more believable. Angered by her reaction, Naruto responded. Hey! I'm serious, Databeo. Yeah, sure. Okay, I'll look for a similar book for you. The main thing is that your research is not related to one of your high-profile pranks. Since if they find out that I indirectly helped you with this, using the property of my clan, then they can punish me too. You understood me? Ino spoke the last question in a slightly menacing tone, leaning forward and placing her fists on her hips. Which, frankly, looked a little tempting to Naruto, so brushing aside his past indignation, he nodded his head. Great. If that's all, then I'll go. Sasuke was probably tired of that pink forehead lamp. See you tomorrow. With these words, the blonde Yamanaka ran to catch up with her friend and Sasuke. Watching her go, Naruto shook his head, trying to shake off new thoughts about Yamanaka, since Sakura was still in his mind and it was a little strange for him to think of another girl. Leaving the walls of the classroom, Naruto once again went to the library of the academy to start a new search for information, and this time about all the Hokage of Konoha. This time, he was not shy to use clones again to cover as many sections as possible, but unfortunately, all information regarding the Kage village of the Hidden Leaf was limited. After spending more than 3 hours searching, Naruto was pretty tired, and his head was splitting from the constant streams of information. Leaving the walls of the academy, Naruto massaged his temples, thinking about how other people could read so much and for so long if it gave him such a headache. It never occurred to him that this was due to the use of the shadow clone technique. Back at the abandoned training ground, Naruto summoned the system, and decided to finally embark on the clone training program that the system had provided him as a reward for uncovering the secret of this technique. Taking a deep breath, Naruto drove away all the thoughts accumulated in him about Mizuki, tests, Sakura, Ino, and even the unconscious Hinata. It was time for training, and thanks to the new program and clones, he planned to become much stronger. Naruto, the Seal of Legacy Chapter 5 Hokage's House. Opening his eyes after ringing the alarm for a minute, the first thing Naruto felt was the aftermath of yesterday's clone training. The system gave him a training program where he had to use clones to hone the basics of ninjutsu such as shuriken jutsu, taijutsu with his own clones, and chakra control through exercises with tree leaves. He trained until the evening, and returned home, exhausted, and fell into bed without even changing his clothes. In addition, he fell asleep in a very uncomfortable position, so that his body ached twice as much as it should. Arg, my whole body hurts, Databeo. But I still have to go to the academy. Ugh. With a few piteous groans, Naruto got out of bed, stretched a little, and scratching his back, slowly hobbled towards the shower, hoping that this would bring him to his senses. One invigorating shower later, Naruto entered the kitchen and glanced into the cupboard to find that he only had 2 more bowls of instant ramen left. With a sad face, he thought, my precious stocks of ramen are running low, I'll have to buy more. The only problem is the availability of money, which I have very little left. It's good that my orphan's allowance will be paid in 8 days. In any case, I can always hunt in the forest, or catch fish. I'm already used to it. Leaving the ramen for later, Naruto grabbed a box of cereal instead and grabbed milk from the refrigerator and made himself a bowl of cereal with milk. The easiest breakfast he could afford. Thinking about it, he thought back to his previous similar days, and realized that it was beginning to drive him into a kind of despondency. Thinking carefully, he made a mental note for himself so that the next time he was in the library, he could find some books on cooking and plans to pick up healthy foods in the forest, and learn how to cook on his own so that he could eat delicious food every day. Previously, he would definitely not have done this, but now, when his new memory allows him to remember everything so well, he thought that memorizing a few recipes and gaining a couple of knowledge about edible and healthy plants would not be a problem. After finishing breakfast, Naruto went to get dressed, and found that his usual orange suit was too dirty after yesterday's as he was too tired to send it to the wash. Sighing, Naruto opened his closet, and realized that he had almost no other clothes, but still there was something that could be worn. Donning orange shorts, a blue t-shirt and an orange sleeveless vest, Naruto left the house and headed towards the academy. On the way, he remembered that he had asked Ino to look for a book in her clan, so when he got to the academy, he quickly looked into the classroom, and not noticing there the blonde he needed, went outside to wait for Ino at the entrance to the building. And just a few minutes later she appeared. Her face was not very happy, as the book turned out to be very large and heavy. Seeing this, Naruto quickly ran up and took it from the young Yamanaka, who was finally able to sigh happily. "Fun Naruto, I hope it was worth it as I had to endure a lot of strange looks directed at me. Usually people don't expect to meet someone of my appearance with an old and dusty book in hand." "Yes, thanks Ino, it means a lot to me." Yeah, the main thing is not to use it to create problems, and do not forget to return it to me. This time straight to my family's store, I'm not going to drag her back on my own." Naruto nodded happily, and after carefully reading the title, he realized that this was exactly what he needed. While Naruto happily studied the title of the book, Ino finally noticed Naruto's clothes, and said, "Have you finally decided to change your wardrobe? You made the right decision. This option looks better on you than your orange pants and jacket, which are not clear how they still remain safe and sound." Ino replied appraisingly, nodding her head in confirmation of her words. After examining himself again, Naruto responded, "Really? I've never thought about changing my image before. Orange is my favorite color and I haven't seen anything else that suits me yet." "Well, if you think about how to change or diversify your wardrobe and appearance, then you can contact me. I'm kind of an expert in this. Okay, we have to go now, lessons will start soon." Saying that, Ino got ahead of Naruto and quickly made her way to class. Naruto trailed after her, but suddenly realized that he would have to carry this book all day. Damn, if I knew storage seals, this problem would be solved instantly. I need to find the 4th Hokage's home as soon as possible, and receive the Fuin seal training as a reward. At this thought, Naruto remembered that now he can create shadow clones, and without hesitation, he created one. Poof! Take the book home and start studying it for now. Got it, boss. While the clone went home to study the book, Naruto headed into the classroom, taking his seat. Seeing him without the book, Ino distracted from Sasuke, and leaving Sakura alone, thereby surprising the pink-haired Kunoichi, Ino headed towards the blonde. Tugging at his hand, she whispered irritably, "Naruto, where is the book? Don't say you've lost it already. I knew I shouldn't have given it to you." "Hey, stop shaking me. Your book is fine. I sent a clone to take it to my house." Hearing this, Ino patted her eyelashes in surprise as she looked at Naruto, and then asked, "What clone? You mean cloning jutsu?" Then, annoyed, she added, "These are illusory clones, Baka. Where is the book?" Also slightly annoyed, Naruto responded, "I didn't say that I used a regular clone. I created a shadow clone and he took the book to my home." Surprised again, Ino said, "Shadow clone?" As a member of a large clan, she knows a little more than others about various techniques, but even she has never heard of shadow clones. For the most part, this is due to the fact that she has not yet graduated from the academy, but somehow, something like that from Naruto's lips sounded not very convincing to her. "Never heard of such, you are not deceiving me?" "Of course not. I can show it to you after class." After thinking a little, Ino answered, "Okay, but if this is your another prank." As she spoke, she clenched her fist, and an ominous aura rose around her, hinting at Naruto that he might be in trouble. "I got you, don't worry, I always keep my word." With a nod, Ino silently walked to her seat, while receiving inquiries from Sakura, who wondered why she had recently started communicating with Naruto. But Naruto himself was not particularly worried about this at the moment, and therefore he ignored them, sitting down in his place. When Iruka entered the classroom, he immediately began the lesson, and according to the old tradition, at the end of the class, he distributed small tests to check the material learned by the students. It was a chance for Naruto to check if there would be a repeat of what happened with Mizuki or not. To his surprise, Iruka gave him a normal test, and even Naruto could solve at least 60 to 70% of the questions. Not without the help of his new memory, of course, which every day helps him remember more and more details from his life. Having finished solving the problems to which he knew the answers, Naruto put his pencil aside and thought again. Phew, it's good that I sent a clone to start studying the book, otherwise I would have wasted my time sitting here. Although, if you think about it, now my memory is working very well, so maybe I really can get some knowledge from here, but using clones in the library, my knowledge is replenished much faster. Would it make sense to skip school from time to time to focus on the library? Okay, I'll think about it later. Now the main thing is to find and get into the house of the fourth Hokage, and complete the mission. As soon as Naruto finished his thoughts, Iruka notified everyone that time was up. Checking the work, Naruto was again the last, but this time, Ino also remained in the class, who was waiting for Naruto with irritation, because Sakura again dragged after Sasuke without her. When Iruka checked Naruto's test, he couldn't help but be surprised. "Naruto, today you surprised me a lot. You were able to answer about 70% of the test, and although it was very simple, you couldn't cope with the third before. Well done!" "Thank you, Iruka-sensei. I have been studying a little lately, so I think this is the fruit of my labors." "Well, keep it up. I am sure that on the next exam, you will certainly be able to complete the clone technique." After praising the blonde, Iruka left to collect the papers while Naruto left the classroom with Ino. Out on the street, Ino took him around the corner and said, "I'm running out of time, so go ahead and show your shadow clone." Okay, G." Crossing his fingers, Naruto spoke the name of the technique. "Kagebushin no Jutsu." Poof! An exact copy of Naruto appeared next to the surprised Kunoichi, and when she began to examine him, he suddenly looked at her and smiled, which greatly frightened her, and she jumped to the side. "Ha! Naruto, he's alive!" "Ha ha ha! You should have seen your face." The clone laughed at her, because of which a vein jumped on the girl's temple, and closing her fist in anger, she hit the clone on the head, scattering him in place. "Shut up!" Looking at all this, Naruto could only smile and then speak. "Well, do you believe me now?" Chilling her ardor, Ino looked at Naruto with a difficult gaze. After all, she could say for sure that this was a serious technique, at least of the B or even a rank. And it was performed by none other than the most lagging student in their class. It may not be as simple as it sounds. I think at least I should reconsider my attitude towards him. In the end, it looks like he is not such a fool as I thought he was. Okay, I guess you were telling the truth. Then, when you finish with the book, don't forget to return it to my family's store. The main thing is to have time before the end of the academy, the rest does not bother me. With these words, the blonde started to leave, leaving Naruto alone. Before the end of the academy? How slow does she think I am reading? Although, if you think about it, I'm not one of those who are famous for quick learning. Arg! Naruto Uzumaki will surpass you all! Yash, to the library. After again spending more than 3 hours studying books with the help of clones, and again not finding the information he needed, Naruto left the abode of knowledge with a slight pain in his head. But he did not stop there, and headed towards the abandoned training ground, where he continued his training, also not forgetting to use clones. And now, somewhere in the middle of a workout, a huge stream of information entered his head from a clone who was reading a book at home, accompanied by another portion of headache, but this time a little less. Wow, I seem to be getting used to it. After reviewing his memories, Naruto realized that the book really contained information about where the fourth Hokage lived. Wow! Now I know where the house of the fourth Hokage is, and not only. Now I know something else. I found out where the Uzumaki clan area, and it is there that the house of the fourth is located. Looking around, Naruto called all of his clones, who had also received new information, and told them to continue training for another half hour before dissipating, while he headed towards the area he had read about. Previously, he always thought it was just an abandoned area that was located quite far away. That is why he never went there, but now, he intended to do a reconnaissance of that place before getting inside. Reaching the beginning of that place, Naruto began to walk along the border of the area, noticing that it was only a few chunin guarding it, who were lazily patrolling its borders. He didn't know why there were so few guards, but a sly grin appeared on his face, since the great pranker Naruto Uzumaki could never be noticed or caught by ordinary chunin, and this was always his strange and surprising ability for others. Iruka was the only one who somehow managed to catch him, which was also his personal ability. After watching the chunin for a bit, and studying the area around, Naruto bought a couple of bowls of ramen, and began to return home. After breakfast, and receiving another dose of memories from the clones who had finished training, he rubbed his temples, and took out a blank sheet of paper, began to plan, and this time not prank. Planning to leave early in the morning, Naruto took a shower and went to bed with an alarm clock, anticipating his tomorrow's infiltration mission. 6 hours later. Early in the morning, before the sun had even risen, an alarm clock rang in front of the young Uzumaki's bed. Opening his sleepy eyes, Naruto quickly turned it off, and lazily lifting his ass out of bed, trudged off to wash and have breakfast. Damn, even though I know that a mission awaits me, but getting up so early for me is hell. I also slept only 6 hours. After breakfast and finally coming to his senses, Naruto prepared all the things he needed, and although he had circles under his eyes due to fatigue and lack of sleep, he still smiled with anticipation of his mission. After leaving the house, he climbed onto the roof of the building, and the first half of the way moved along them, but then, went down, and continued his movement through the courtyards, which he knew like the back of his hand. Finally, when he reached the border of the abandoned area, he hid in the safest place he knew, and carefully looked around. In the distance, he noticed two chunin standing, with sleepy faces, who were discussing something among themselves. After creating a clone, Naruto forced him to apply the transformation jutsu, transforming into a pretty girl with golden curls. But before he could leave, the original noticed something and stopped him by pointing at the clothes. Change clothes for women. If they notice you in my suit, they may well understand who you are. With a nod, the clone transformed again, but this time he was wearing a blue dress that he gleaned from a magazine he used to train his sexy jutsu. Now great, this will be our first debut of this technique, so give it your all. Raising his thumb, Naruto said. Leave it to me, boss. Naruto's clone responded in a sweet female voice, and as he walked out of the alley, he merged with the crowd, heading towards the two bored chunin. Seeing that the chunins pecked at his clone, and actively began to communicate with him, Naruto quickly slipped towards the abandoned part, jumping over the fence that separated some parts of the area. But suddenly, when he was about to go further, he came across an invisible wall, upon touching which various letters appeared, and small seals connected by invisible chains. Ouch! Naruto hissed as he plopped down on his ass while staring at this wall. Scratching the back of his head, he thought. Well, now it's clear why there are so few guards here. The area is surrounded by a protective seal. I think something like this was to be expected from a clan that was renowned for the highest skill in Fuin. But one question remains, how can I overcome this? Thinking about it, Naruto went to the invisible wall and put his palm on it, wanting to feel this wall, but to his surprise, when his palm completely touched the seal on the wall, it lit up, and a certain signal was transmitted from it to the nearest seals, puffing panic out of Naruto, who thought he had caused an alarm, but before he had time to recover, the signal propagation stopped, forming a small oval with a height of 1.5 meters, which gradually began to disappear, opening a small passage in the wall of the seal. Seeing this, Naruto was very surprised, but wasted no time slipping inside, after which the passage was immediately closed. Seeing this, Naruto thought. I'm not sure what happened, but maybe the seal opened since I am Uzumaki too. I think it is worth investigating this issue later. Proceeding further, Naruto walked out to his clan's area, with a slight smile on his face. So this is what the place where my clan used to live looked like. I like it. With that said, Naruto began searching for the fourth Hokage's home based on the descriptions in the book. And it didn't take long, and after a couple of minutes, he was standing in front of a small 2-story house. Looking at the house, Naruto swallowed and couldn't help but speak. House of the fourth Hokage. Approaching the door, he put his hand on the door handle, and again some kind of seal flashed, before something clicked on the door. Surprised, Naruto lowered the handle and the door quietly opened. It looks like there was a seal here too, but this is the Hokage's house. Why did it let me in? Thinking about it, Naruto entered the house and looked around. The furnishings were quite cozy and made Naruto warm and pleasant. Walking around the house, he went into some room, in which Naruto saw a portrait on the wall with two people depicted on it. As he approached, Naruto realized that it was the fourth Hokage, next to a beautiful woman with red hair and an enlarged belly. Looking at her, Naruto couldn't help but say, "She has beautiful hair." Affirmative. A sheet of message floated up in front of Naruto's eyes, surprising him a little. But deciding to ignore it, Naruto carefully examined the painting and noticed the inscription below. Looking at it, he read aloud, "Namikaze Minato and Kushina Uzumaki." His eyes widened and he raised his eyes to her again, taking a step back. Uzumaki so Yandame was also married to Uzumaki? But this cannot be. By that time, the Uzumaki clan should no longer exist. If only. Looking at her belly, Naruto caught himself thinking strangely. It can't be, I must just be misunderstanding something. Thinking about it, he continued to step back until he bumped into something with his back. Turning around, he saw a crib with a postcard in it. Taking it in his hands, he read the inscription written on it. Naruto's birthday present. "It is they mine?" Turning back to the painting, he said, "Parents?" Affirmative. Mission completed. Congratulations to the host on completing the Seal of Legacy introductory missions. The reward will be initiated immediately. What? Wait, I don't. But before he could finish, two transparent people appeared in front of him, standing right between Naruto and the painting, who looked exactly like their. Looking at them, Naruto stood with round eyes holding his breath and didn't know what to say. But there was no need to say anything, because these people spoke first. "Hello, son. Finally we saw you." Naruto, the Seal of Legacy Chapter 6 began. Standing with his mouth open, Naruto looked at the two people who, he guessed, were his parents. In disbelief, he raised his hands abruptly to rub his eyes and look back at his parents, eliciting a laugh from the red-haired woman and a smile from the man next to her. A lot of emotions flashed across the face of young Naruto, and the parents standing in front of him waited, and did not prevent him from realizing everything. With trembling lips and an equally trembling voice, he tried to speak. "Why you are my." Naruto tried to pronounce these words that were not familiar to him. Words he thought he could never say. Words that previously caused him only envy, sadness, and feelings of inferiority. Gathering all his strength into a fist, Naruto was finally able to say it. "Are you my mom and dad?" With a face full of hope and expectation, he anxiously awaited an answer. Kushina and Minato looked at each other and, returning their gaze to their son, smiled, and Kushina replied, "Yes, Naruto. We are your mom and dad." Hearing their confirmation, Naruto could no longer hold back the flow of his emotions, and tears began to flow from his eyes, and although he tried to hold them back, all he managed to do was sniff. Seeing her son in such a state, Kushina could no longer contain herself and finally rushed to her child, hugging him, thereby surprising Naruto even more. Feeling her warmth, and all her love transmitted through this embrace, he cried even more, saying only one word. "Mom!" He immediately responded to his mother's hug, squeezing her tightly in his arms, fearing that she might disappear. At this point, a moved Minato approached them, and also hugged his son with Kushina. Finally calming down a bit, Naruto asked the only question that interested him. "How?" Smiling proudly, Minato immediately responded. "All thanks to a small but tricky gift that I left you." Naruto thought about it, and interrupting the hug, looked at his idol, who turned out to be his father, and asked, "You mean System-chan?" Dad." When Minato heard his son call him Dad, his eyes sparkled and he was filled with a childish joy that couldn't help but make Kushina laugh. Pulling himself together and clearing his throat into a fist, Minato answered, "Well, that's right, Naruto. Your system is a seal that I created especially for you, and it works due to our mental energy with Kushina. So now, while we are here, it will not be available." Referring mentally to the system, Naruto confirmed what had been said as nothing had happened. Still holding on to his mother's slightly transparent hand, he asked the next question. "These are not real bodies, are they? Why can I touch and feel you?" Grinning, Minato answered, It's very simple, Naruto. Since the seal is inside you, it immerses you in a special state of genjutsu, in which you can see and feel us. Other people, of course, will not see us, and even less will they feel. This is what I was doing inside the seal while it was synchronizing with your body. Great, isn't it? It's just incredible. Naruto still didn't believe in what was happening, and the feeling of happiness just overwhelmed him. He wanted to learn a lot from them, to ask a lot, but above all, he wanted to know what made his life in the village so unbearable and terrible. Therefore, remembering these moments of his life, he turned his exhausted and tired eyes to his parents and asked, "Mom, Dad, why does everyone in the village hate me?" This question seemed to be very stressful for Naruto's parents. Minato and Kushina could see how much pain their son was holding back when he asked them this question, and although they didn't know yet what was the matter, seeing their son's expression like that caused a heavy and oppressive feeling of pain inside them. Minato looked at Kushina and she nodded to him, then smiled tenderly and pulled Naruto along onto the sofa, sitting him on her lap and taking him into her embrace, thereby embarrassing the boy and taking him out of this heavy mood. "Naruto, we're not entirely sure what you asked, but..." Naruto was about to say something, but was stopped by Kushina, who smiled reassuringly at him, and continued to speak. "But don't worry, Naruto, Mom and Dad will see for themselves now and figure it out, okay?" Not understanding what they were talking about, Naruto just nodded silently, but inside he felt an incredible warm feeling that he lacked so much. The feeling that someone is worried and cares about you. At that moment, Minato came up to them, and knelt down in front of his son, who was sitting on Kushina's lap, put his right hand on the boy's head, and his left hand on Kushina's shoulder, in order to look into his memory. Immediately after that, the bodies of Kushina and Minato began to flicker a little, causing slight anxiety in the boy, but literally in a second everything stopped, and Minato removed his hand from Naruto, and stood with his head bowed, hiding his gaze behind his hair. At this time, Kushina clenched her fists, and she was surrounded by a terrible aura, because of which her hair began to rise slightly. She turned her serious and angry gaze to Minato to see a similar expression on his face. "Minato, absolutely everything didn't go as we hoped." "Yes." The older blonde answered coldly, clenching his fists. Kushina thought for a bit and asked, "Hiruzen?" "No, I do not think so." Minato shook his head, which caused Kushina's eyes to narrow, and she asked again, "Then this is definitely the council. Or rather, it was Danzo." The man finished for her, evoking an even more oppressive aura in the red-haired woman. Naruto sat a little confused and didn't understand what his parents were talking about. The only thing he understood was that they somehow looked at his memories, and the past feeling of the chakra in his head confirmed this, but he still decided to clarify. Mom, Dad? What are you talking about?" As soon as he gave his voice, the oppressive atmosphere immediately disappeared, and Kushina began to squeeze her son with a sweet smile, and said, "Ah, Naruto, we just looked into your memories and..." At that moment, her eyes became sad, and she continued, "We are very sorry, this is all our fault." But here Minato interrupted her and said, "No, it's completely my fault." Naruto still didn't quite understand what he was talking about. "What is the fault? What are you talking about?" Minato clenched his fists and bowed his head in reply. "Do you know who Jinchuriki are, Naruto?" "Jinchuriki?" Lost in thought, Naruto remembered that he had just recently come across this term in one of the books in the library, and therefore replied, "These are the people who carried the tailed beast inside, right?" With a nod of his head, Minato continued, "Right. Before you were born, your mother was one of them." Hearing something like that, Naruto's eyes widened and he looked in disbelief at his mother, who smiled bitterly at him as she continued to stroke his head. "So then the fox demon that attacked Konoha, you were his Jinchuriki?" "Yes." Naruto got even more confused and asked, "But if you were a nine-tailed fox's Jinchuriki, how did it happen that he attacked Konoha and Dad had to fight him?" At this point Minato entered the conversation. "During your childbirth, an unknown ninja in a mask appeared and kidnapped your weakened mother, using her condition to release the tailed beast out." For the next 5 minutes, Minato talked about the events that happened at that time, and when he finished at the moment when he sealed the Kyuubi into Naruto, he lowered his head and said, "I'm sorry, Naruto. When I was sealing the Kyuubi inside you, I hoped that the villagers would perceive you as the hero of the village holding the monster in a cage within you, but I didn't take into account that so much information would be hidden, and that a false rumor would be sent into the village that you were the Kyuubi. I am very sorry, and I hope that someday you will forgive me." Naruto listened to all this with his head tilted, hiding his gaze from his parents, which made them a little nervous. Silently rising from the couch, Naruto stood with his eyes closed and began to speak softly. You know, all my life I thought that all the anger of people directed at me was somehow justified, and I just could not understand what and where I did wrong. I thought that due to the fact that I have no family, I do not get the necessary lessons, and I constantly make mistakes. Yes, mistakes that I began to consider as something normal for myself, and therefore I didn't try to delve too deeply into the cause of all this, and in their correction. Perhaps I was simply afraid that finding the answer would turn out to be even worse than I imagined. Kushina and Minato stared at their son in dumbfoundedness, and the only feeling they felt was the pain of realizing what their son had to go through in order to have such thoughts. An overwhelming sense of guilt filled them, and tears welled up in Kushina's eyes as she silently listened to her son's words. After a pause, Naruto continued. But now that I found out all this, I finally realized that it was all a complete misunderstanding, and that I had not done anything wrong. With a light and relaxed smile, Naruto finished, surprising his parents and giving them a little relief. That is, you are not angry with me? Or villagers? Minato asked hopefully, looking at his son. Naruto brought his hand to his chin and spoke as if thinking. Well, I would be lying if I said that I was not angry at all, but it can be solved. Ah. Of course, anything you are. His words were interrupted by Naruto's sharp punch in the stomach. As the former Hokage fell to his knees, holding his stomach, Naruto shouted. Think about your child's feelings before you put the tailed beast in him and disappear, Databeo. Oh, of course. Minato replied quietly, backing away from the blow with a little breathlessness. Kushina, seeing this, couldn't help but laugh. Ha 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 ha. Databeo then, huh? Now I can see for sure that you are my son. That's right. If someone offends you, let them know that the Uzumaki are not the ones to mess with, Databane. A happy Kushina yelled, raising her fist before gripping her baby even harder. Minato, on the other hand, was sweating a bit as he watched the mother and son duet with their strange verbal tics. But still, he finally got up and smiled too, seeing how the family finally reunited, returned a joyful mood. Naruto, embarrassed by his mother's onslaught of love, spoke up. Heh, come on, Mom, stop it. I feel awkward. I'm not used to all this yet. By the way, Dad, although I have forgiven you, you still have to make up for the time that you were not there and teach me a bunch of cool things and techniques. This is exactly what I created the seal for. Minato replied with satisfaction. Kushina, meanwhile, was thinking about something, and then her eyes lit up, and she turned to Naruto. Hey Naruto, show your mommy about your Fuinjutsu success. I'm sure you've reached even greater heights than Minato at your age. After all, without my training, his sealing was basic essential seals. Right, dear? Yes. If not for your mother, then I certainly would not have become who I am remembered in the world of shinobi. So I'm also interested to see your progress in this matter. Yet, unlike me, you are Uzumaki. Listening to their words, Naruto felt somehow embarrassed and ashamed, since he does not know a single seal at all, and will not be able to live up to the expectations of his parents. Looking fearfully at the expectant faces of his parents, he clenched his fists and answered honestly. I don't know a single seal. What? Kushina was very shocked, and Minato frowned a little in suspicion. Seeing their reaction, Naruto said, Not that I would not like to learn this, but until recently, I thought that I was a simple clanless orphan. I didn't know that the Uzumaki were a clan and that their descendants were good at Fuinjutsu. Hearing another sad news from Naruto, Kushina was outraged. What? They didn't even tell you that? Is it Danzo again? Kushina asked, turning to Minato, to which he just shook his head and expressed his opinion. No, this time I think it was Sarutobi. I can understand the cover-ups of his legacy as Namikaze, since I had many enemies that I annoyed. But I don't quite understand the hiding of his legacy as Uzumaki. Hearing this, Naruto decided to add. Even more, as I recently realized, most of the teachers at the academy deliberately sabotaged my studies so that I could not do my assignments normally and advance in the shinobi craft. They had the same look as the villagers. I think they also blamed me for the incident 12 years ago. Seeing Naruto's frown, Minato put a hand on Naruto's shoulder and said, Naruto, listen to me. You no longer need to think or worry about someone looking askance at you or not providing you with the proper training. Now that your mom and I are with you, we will take care of your training personally. That's right, Databane. Just rely on your amazing parents, and we'll make sure everyone in the village regrets they underestimated and treated my little angel badly. Seeing how his parents worried and supported him, moisture began to appear in Naruto's eyes again, but he quickly wiped it off with his sleeve and said with a joyful smile, "Thank you, Mom, Dad. I will do my best and I will not let you down. I will make people see that Uzumaki Naruto is not who they think he is, Dadabayo." Nodding happily, Kushina said, "That's the spirit. And don't forget to find yourself some brides so that Mom can quickly see her grandchildren, as well as the revival of the Uzumaki clan." Hearing this, Naruto immediately became embarrassed and blushed, and Minato looked strangely at Kushina, and said carefully, "Kushina, I don't think it will be that easy, and besides, where did that jealous Kushina that I knew go?" HMFF. It's one thing you, whom a lot of girls ran after in the past, and another thing is my lovely son, who has been deprived of attention all his life and has suffered enough. Everything is allowed to my little angel. Right, dear? Once again starting to squeeze her blushing and embarrassed child, Kushina asked. Naruto didn't know how to react to this, so he decided not to argue with his mom, and just go with the flow, answering, "Ah yes, Mom." "Sweet. Hee hee hee." Seeing how embarrassed his son was, Minato thought it would be funny to watch him trying to find a bride. But then he remembered his sensei Jiraiya, and thought about how he would react if he found out that Kushina wants to collect a harem for his son. Most likely, he would have directed half of his intelligence network to spy on Naruto and his romantic affairs, for his research on the new book. Sighing, Minato looked at Naruto and said, "Okay, Naruto. In fact, there is a time limit on how long we can be out of the seal per day. So I think we shouldn't waste any more time and start preparing for your training as early as possible. What do you think?" Getting out of his mom's grip, making her pout in resentment, Naruto responded, "Why yes. I'm ready, Dad." Nodding contentedly, Minato said, "Then I want you to prepare some necessary things for the training, which I will compose for you, and also, it would be nice if you could find a place hidden from prying eyes with a pond in which you could train without attracting prying eyes. Remember everything?" "Yes. After the system Chan worked, my memory became very good. I can memorize everything very easily, and no problem. Cool, right?" A little surprised, Minato answered, "Wow, I didn't know about such an effect. Yes, this is a really pleasant surprise, then remember everything I say." For the next few minutes, Minato dictated and explained all the things and subjects needed for his future training. When Naruto remembered everything and was about to run away in search of them, he was stopped by Kushina. "Not so fast. Did you think Minato would be the only one training you?" Surprised, Naruto answered, "Will my mom train me too?" Smiling, Minato decided to open his son's eyes. "Actually, Naruto, your mom was one of the strongest ninja in the village, and in some ways, she was even cooler than me." "Damn right, Databane. Even the dumb fox was no problem for me." Hearing this, Naruto's eyes widened in shock, but then lit up with childish joy, and Naruto himself ran to his mother and spoke. "Wow, I didn't know that my mother was not only beautiful, but also damn strong." Hearing her son praising her, she happily fidgeted in place, again pulling her son into her arms, and could not stand it, said, "Oh, Naruto, you shouldn't. Oh, what's the most beautiful thing about your mom?" Without even thinking, Naruto answered almost immediately, "Hair. You have very beautiful hair, Mom." Hearing his words, Kushina even froze for a moment, and then was even more delighted, and said, My angel definitely understands true beauty. You are the second person to say that my hair is beautiful." "Who was the first?" "Well, your father, of course." Minato scratched the back of his head awkwardly as he listened to their conversation. Glancing at his father, Naruto happily responded, "Well, I suppose, like a father, so is a son. We both have great taste." This time, Minato's eyes lit up and he walked over and happily ruffled his son's hair. When they finished with the praise, Kushina said, "So, Naruto, I will leave the beginning of physical training to Minato, since I want to teach you the Uzumaki family jutsu. But for this, you need to have good control over your chakra, and be physically strong and resilient enough, and precisely by the standards of our clan, and not other people. And until you achieve that, you and I will begin by teaching Fuin jutsu. Agree?" Naruto's eyes lit up with anticipation and he spoke quickly. "Yes. It will be amazing. Finally I will really learn cool things, and not what they tried to teach me at the academy. After receiving a satisfied answer from her son, Kushina quickly dictated to him all the supplies for practicing Fuinjutsu, but then remembering something, she asked, "By the way, Naruto, do you even have the money to buy whatever Minato and I asked of you?" As soon as the question touched the money, Naruto stood rooted to the spot, and slowly turned his head to his parents, said, "Well, I always have problems with money. My orphan's allowance will not arrive until 7 days later, and not that there are many." Saying that, it seemed like he was very upset, but Minato and Kushina only smiled, and Minato said, "Naruto, have you forgotten who your parents were?" Looking at them blankly, he said, "Hokage and Uzumaki, why?" Shaking his head, the older blonde answered, "Me and your mom had a decent amount of money, which we put aside for your maintenance, and not only. Just move our painting aside and you will see a safe with a Fuin seal stamped on it. Put your blood on it, and the safe will open immediately." Nodding, Naruto immediately removed the portrait of his parents, and saw a safe with a seal. Poking his finger with a kunai, he put it to the seal, which immediately flashed and disappeared, opening the safe, in which Naruto found a whole pile of sealed scrolls and money. Seeing all this goodness, his eyes lit up with joy, and pointing at all this with his finger, he looked at his parents, as if asking, "May I?" To which he received only a nod from them, with a slight smile. Satisfied blonde took some money, and closed the safe, said, "You should have been stricter and dealt with the council and Danzo while still alive." With a fist clenched, Minato answered, "I know. But now it's too late to regret the past. At the moment, we must concentrate on the future of our son, so that at least he does not repeat our mistakes and walk into a happy future with a firm gait." With these words, they both returned to the seal, waiting for their son to do everything that they told him. On this day, Naruto will begin his training, which will turn his life completely and irrevocably. 3 days later, Konoha territory. At the moment, Naruto was at the far end of the Konoha forest next to a small river, and was training according to his father's instructions. He tried to learn how to walk on trees, and during the breaks he trained chakra control, and even tried to learn how to walk on water. While walking on vertical tree trunks was not an easy task for him, but quite doable, his attempts to walk on water practically didn't work for him, and each time his failures left him drenched and irritated. Minato had long since reached the limit of being outside the seal, and after disappearing, left Naruto in the care of a system that monitored his progress. And so, after another fall of Naruto from the tree, a transparent window, imitating a scroll with ink inscriptions, appeared in front of him, and announced the progress of his training. Reached the top of the tree, progress 58% out of 100%. Still not enough, keep trying, user. Damn, this is getting annoying. Aren't you tired of reminding me of this yet, System-chan? The purpose of the Legacy Seal system is to guide and assist the user in developing their skills and keeping them motivated. Yeah, sure, with this type of help, my motivation will disappear even faster, grumbled the annoyed blonde, getting up from the ground and looking back at the tree, about to make another try. Reminder to the user, you can still ask the system for one hint for this particular mission. Hearing this, Naruto froze in place, and, as if remembering something, banged his forehead with his palm and shouted, "Damn it! I completely forgot that I have such an opportunity, Databeo. And where is my improved memory when I need it so badly, huh? Arg." After getting a little annoyed, Naruto finally calmed down and spoke to the system. "System-chan, I want to use the hint." Affirmative. When climbing a tree, use different amounts of chakra in your feet, and pay attention to your footprints on the trunk of the tree. Then you will find the answer. Blinking, Naruto stood there staring at nothing and said, "Again a riddle instead of direct help, and what was I hoping for?" Taking this hint more calmly than before, Naruto decided to do as the system advised. He ran up a tree, trying to change the amount of chakra in his feet, and after a certain number of attempts, he began to examine the tree trunk on which he was running, analyzing the situation. So, these deepened traces were the time when I pumped up a lot of chakra, and literally tripped over my own feet, and almost broke a tree. The next time I barely used the chakra on my legs, I took at least 3 or 4 steps until the momentum was gone, and I lost my grip. Looking down a little in place, Naruto's face turned red with embarrassment, and he thought, "Crap. It was so obvious, Databeo. I just need to get the right amount of chakra in my feet so that there is enough grip without damaging the tree or getting stuck in it. And it took me 2 days to figure it out. And the most offensive thing is that all this is in front of my father's eyes. How embarrassing, Databeo." An embarrassed Naruto created a clone to pass information on to other clones who practiced chakra control to dispel them. When he received information with slightly improved skills, he sat down on the ground, and closing his eyes began to remember all his attempts to climb a tree, and his new improved memory came in handy more than ever. Every failure, every sensation, and every little change. He tried to remember all this in order to keep the necessary images in his head, and finally understand the approximate amount of chakra required to complete this training. Rising to his feet, Naruto created a dozen clones, and nodding to them, proceeded to climb the trees with them. Just an hour later, Naruto stood at the top of the tree, with a satisfied smile on his face, and laughed. Ha ha ha! Yes! Finally I made it, Databeo. One had only to figure it out, and everything went as it should. Mission reached the top of the tree completed. One half of the training completed. Mission walking on water in progress 5% out of 100%. Too bad, keep trying. Since the host spent the hint on the first part of the tutorial mission, you cannot use it to complete the second part. That's okay, System-chan. Now, I finally know how to proceed. I just need to use my head more often in situations like this, otherwise I definitely won't be able to surpass my father, Databeo. Affirmative. Jumping off the tree, Naruto headed for the river to resume his attempts to learn how to walk on water. 5 hours later. Minato was finally able to regain some chakra in order to restore his unsealed body, and looking around, he was greatly surprised as Naruto was currently standing on the water. And he did not just stand, but did it with additional weight, in the form of several weighty stones. At the same time, behind him, a group of his clones were running and jumping on the water, trying to get used to this skill, and to be able to move on to active actions on the water, if necessary. Full of joy and pride for his son, Minato walked over to Naruto and said, "You surprised me a lot, Naruto." Hearing a familiar voice, Naruto fell into the water in surprise, and emerged to stare at his father. "Dad." Climbing back to the surface of the water, Naruto said embarrassedly. "Haha, don't worry, Naruto. It took me about 2 to 3 days to master these two skills. So there is nothing to be ashamed of. You did a great job, son." Naruto's eyes lit up with praise and he scratched the back of his head in embarrassment, and laughed in response. "Thank you, Dad. Although, unlike you, I used clones and took advantage of the help of the system. So without these benefits, I could have been stuck with it for at least a week." Nodding at his son's self-criticism, Minato again remembered the stones he trained with and asked, "By the way, Naruto, where did you find out about weight training on the water?" That was a reward for completing the training from System-chan. It told me about an improved and sophisticated version of this workout. So while you were gone, I decided to try it." With a nod, Minato said, "Okay then, given your sudden successes, I think we can finish for today. Kushina is already rushing into battle to spend more time with you teaching Fuinjutsu. Yada! Now I can fully concentrate on my mom's lessons, and stop nodding and falling asleep from fatigue. Then recall the clones and head to our house. I will disappear and give my remaining time to Kushina so that you can spend more time." Delighted, Naruto ran to his father and hugged him and said, "Thank you, Dad." After that, he made a gesture with his hands, and after creating a clone, he immediately dispersed it, after which all other clones also dispersed. Naruto was really happy, because for the last 3 days, he spent almost all his strength on practice with his father, and he did not have the strength to continue studying with his mother. All this, coupled with the fact that, due to the excitement from spending time with his parents, he did not sleep enough, affected his body and general condition. Tired but still able to continue, he returned to his parents' house, where Kushina immediately appeared, and with a joyful expression on her face, she embraced her child. "I received news from Minato that you completed the assignment, and now we can practice normally. Well done, Naruto. I knew that my little angel son would cope with all this in a short time, so that he could start lessons with his mom as soon as possible." Thanks, Mom. It still took me quite a while to get it right, though." Naruto was embarrassed, but he was in no hurry to break free from his mother's embrace. Still, it was what he dreamed of all his life, and now he enjoyed the love and attention of his parents to the fullest. Hearing his words, Kushina just snorted. "Pfft, you were more than quick, Naruto. It took me about 5 or 6 days to master these skills, all because of the huge amount of chakra from our ancestry. So it is not surprising that we need more time to master everything related to control and precise manipulation of the chakra. And seeing that you coped with just 3 days of training with your father, it says that I have a very talented son." With these words, she once again squeezed the embarrassed blonde in her arms, and then led him to the table, where a heap of papers, scrolls, and books on Fuinjutsu lay from the previous lessons. "Well, I hope you are ready, because we are going to make up for everything that you missed because of your absent-mindedness and fatigue." "No problem, I'm ready, Databeo," Naruto stated by raising his fist in the air, showing that he was still full of energy. However, Kushina could see small bruises under his eyes. She was well aware that Naruto had been overstraining himself lately, and although he was Uzumaki and concentrating on training is very important, rest is an equally important part of training that should not be forgotten. So before starting her studies, she said, "By the way, Naruto, do you have a hobby?" "Hobby? I've heard this word before, but I'm not sure what it means." Naruto was a little puzzled as he had no one to talk to about such topics before. Hearing this, Kushina became a little sad, but still smiled and began to explain. "A hobby is a little passion, or a favorite pastime of a person in his free time. Something that can distract you and just relax your mind." After scratching his head, Naruto said, "Well, if you can call organizing jokes something like that, then probably I do have. Otherwise, I don't think I have a real hobby." "Then why don't you find it for yourself?" Naruto frowned a little and answered, "But then I will have less time for training, and I will not be able to become as strong as you and Dad. Not to mention surpassing you." Kushina only laughed at his statement, and gently stroked his head and replied, "Naruto, all the strong ninjas of which history knew, always found time to rest, and were engaged in other matters not related to the life of a shinobi. Found their hobby, and just let their burdens and worries fade into the background." Listening to his mother, Naruto thought about it, and turned to her and asked, "Did you and Dad also have a hobby?" "Of course, Naruto. When I was young, I found an interest in music and often loved to sing. And your father, as a child, loved to draw in his free time, but when we met and he found out that I loved to sing, he specially learned to play the shamisen in order to play along with me while I sing. We often spent time writing small songs together, which we then sang." Kushina spoke about it with great warmth in her voice, and Naruto could see that this time was very dear to his mother. Thinking about something like that, Naruto smiled slightly himself and said, "That sounds great, Mom. I think I will try, like you and Dad, to learn and make music in my free time. I think it would be a good hobby, wouldn't it?" Seeing how her son with a bright smile chose the same hobby as her and Minato, she smiled brightly and nodded her head. "Yes, Naruto. And I hope that you start resting more, otherwise I can tell from the bruises under your eyes that you have not rested in quite a long time." "Seriously?" Naruto stood up and walked over to the mirror and stared at his slightly pale and tired expression. He was quite surprised, as he had not paid attention to it before. Sighing, he said, "Okay, Mom. I will be more careful to make time for rest." "That's good. Now let's get started." "Hi." So, for 3 hours, Kushina instructed Naruto in the art of Fuinjutsu. To Naruto's surprise, everything was much simpler and clearer than he originally thought, and more, it was much more interesting and more exciting than he thought. Seeing Naruto's surprise, Kushina explained that to all members of the Uzumaki clan, the study of Fuin seals is much easier than others. She called it a kind of Kekkei Genkai, which only strengthened Naruto's desire to delve into the study of this direction. While the mother and son couple sat in the theoretical part, sorting out some basic formulas, in the other part of the room, Naruto's clone sat and practiced calligraphy, improving the accuracy and speed of writing, which was an extremely important part of any seal. At the end of the lesson, Naruto was finally able to create his first and simple storage seal, and could already see ways to improve and expand it. Kushina was extremely pleased and proud of her son's learning speed, which even surprised her. "My son is definitely gifted at this. I am sure that in the future he will remind the whole shinobi world why everyone was so afraid of the Uzumaki clan, Databane." At the end of the teaching, Kushina turned to Naruto. "By the way, Naruto, it's been 3 days since you've been missing the academy. I think you should still return to it tomorrow, so as not to cause unnecessary problems and suspicions. I think it is too early for you to declare that you have learned about your heritage. At least until graduation from the academy." Naruto fell into a stupor and slapped his forehead again and said, "Ah, right, the academy, I completely forgot about this place, never missed it though. I think you're right. More than 3 days of absenteeism is too much even for my reputation as a lagging troublemaker. Pfft." Then Kushina finally paid attention to her child's clothes and said, "Hey Naruto, what are these clothes on you? It's all worn out and torn in places. And the style is a bit repulsive." Naruto cringed slightly at the criticism and answered, "Well, it's just these are the only clothes that I liked from those that I could afford. Plus orange is one of my favorites." Kushina frowned, and again cursed the Konoha Council and the village idiots for making life worse for her son. Sighing, she thought a little and asked, "Naruto, what other colors do you like besides orange?" Clutching his chin, the blonde thought, and carefully listening to his feelings, answered, "I think I like the color of your hair, that is, red, I think. I also like blue, as well as white. But orange is my favorite." "I see." Thinking again, Kushina remembered something and smiled as she said, "So, Naruto, I cannot allow you to go to the academy in this outfit worn out by life and your training." Straining, Naruto examined his suit and said, "But I don't have anything else. Maybe shorts with a vest, but I have them for a special occasion, so I don't wear them often." Laughing, Kushina answered, "Don't worry, Naruto. I have the perfect replacement for you. Go up to the attic and find a black chest there." Okay." Rubbing the back of his head, Naruto stood up and headed into the hallway where the ascent to the attic was. Looking around, he was surprised how clean it was, but remembering the same situation in the rest of the house, he wrote it off on the seal. Noticing the black chest, Naruto approached it, and at that moment Kushina appeared next to him. She looked at the chest and said, "Yes, this one, open it." After doing as instructed, Naruto opened the large lid and saw a set of clothes. At the very top was a white jacket, which he took in his hands and examined it carefully. It had black trim around the edges and a black collar with 3 black stripes running along the sleeves. "This is the clothes your dad wore to the Ninja Academy when he was your age." Hearing this, Naruto's eyes widened and he examined the entire outfit again. In addition to the jacket, there were also black cargo shinobi pants, a white t-shirt with a mesh cape beside it, and black sandals with an elongated shaft. Returning his gaze to his mother, Naruto asked, "So, the replacement you mentioned is?" "Yeah, this is it. Do you want to try it on?" Naruto looked at the clothes and nodded with a smile. "Yes, I would like to try it on." "Then go ahead, I'll be back in a few minutes." With that, Kushina disappeared, giving Naruto time to change. Quickly shedding his shabby jacket and trousers, he began to put on the clothes that his father had worn in his youth. A few minutes later, Kushina reappeared, and froze when she saw her son from the back, looking in the mirror. Right now, at that moment, he reminded her so much of young Minato that for a second she even confused him with him. Noticing someone's presence, Naruto turned around and when he saw his mother smiled and said, "How do I look? Looks as good on me as on Dad?" Smiling, Kushina wiped a little moisture from her eyes and lifted her finger to answer. "Looks even better, Dadabane. Now you have something to go to the academy tomorrow. And if you want something else, then you can always take more money from our savings and buy whatever you want." Naruto was immensely happy. From the day his parents appeared in his life, he constantly felt warmth and love emanating from them, even though they could not be with him for a long time. Over the past 3 days, he has finally been able to feel some peace in his mind, and some peace within. Now, even the thought of recognizing him by other people did not bother him. Looking at the suit again, Naruto said, "Actually, I like these clothes. It's a pity that there is nothing orange in it." Kushina raised her eyebrows and replied in a tone as if it wasn't a problem at all. "Oh, this? Don't worry, it's easy to fix with Fuinjutsu. Let's go back to the room and we'll quickly make some small changes to these clothes." "Really? Fuinjutsu can do that too?" "Oh, you haven't even seen what real Fuinjutsu is capable of. You can do anything with it, like it all. The main thing is to study it at a sufficient level." With sparkling eyes, Naruto returned to the room where he studied Fuin with Kushina, and under her strict guidance, he applied a certain Fuin structure to the inside of the black collar of his jacket. "Well, that's it. Now just put your chakra into it, and the whole black lining of the sweatshirt will change color." Nodding, Naruto injected his chakra into the seal, and at the same second, a dark orange color began to spread straight from it, until he completely filled and repainted all the black parts of the jacket. Looking at this, Naruto noticed that this orange was shifted slightly towards red. Looking at his mother, he received an answer from her. I decided that it would look better if the color is a little closer to the color of your beloved mom's hair, which you like so much. But if you don't like it, we can redo it, it's not difficult. No, everything is okay. I like it. Saying that, Naruto immediately put his new jacket on himself and said, Thanks, Mom. From now on, I will wear this until I graduate from the academy, Databeo. Satisfied, Kushina pulled her son into her arms again and said, I'm glad you like it. Now you should go to bed quickly. And yes, don't forget to dispel your clones. I know you send a few to the library all the time, so don't even argue. Smiling bitterly, Naruto created a clone and relayed the information to dispel to all of his supported clones. It hit his head pretty hard, but still bearable. Good, then good night, Naruto. We'll be doing a little more Fuinjutsu tomorrow, as you're taking a break from heavy exercise for now, so be prepared. Yes, Mom. Naruto Uzumaki is always ready to learn cool jutsu, Databeo. Believe it! With a nod, Kushina wished Naruto good night and disappeared. Looking at his new clothes, Naruto couldn't calm his joy. Entering the room that his parents wanted to give him when he grows up, he carefully took off his clothes and folded them on the dresser by the bed, and crawling under the covers, he closed his eyes with a peaceful smile on his face. At this time, Naruto did not know that the changes in his consciousness and inner world were noticed not by him alone, but by one creation of the purest chakra inside him. The inner world began to gradually change again. What's going on with this brat, in the end? At this, the demonic creature again looked around its changed prison, and with a snort, fell back into sleep. After waking up in his old apartment in the morning, Naruto was finally completely rested and relaxed. And even though it was time for him to return to the academy, he felt unusually light and at ease. After finishing his morning routine, Naruto had breakfast and put on his new white suit. Looking in the mirror and smiling relaxedly, he nodded to himself and said, Great! I feel that today at the academy I will not be the dead last, Databeo. Clenching his fist, Naruto smiled to himself, and thought. After all, over the past 3 days, my clones have been able to pull up some of the missing knowledge in the library, and training with my father has helped me improve my movement skills by adding chakra to my feet. Pleased with himself, Naruto grabbed the book he had borrowed from Ino, sealed it in the recently studied storage seal, and left his apartment. Along the way, unlike previous times, he decided to completely ignore the villagers, since they no longer bothers him with their looks, because he finally learned all the details of their blind hatred. But if Naruto still tried to pay attention to the views of people on him, then he would be able to notice that very rarely, but on the faces of some residents there were completely new facial expressions, conveying such emotions as surprise, confusion, and even vague awareness and trembling. These rare residents were people who lived long enough to remember one promising young shinobi, wearing the same outfit, golden hair, and the same calm and relaxed gaze. An elderly man who owns a small musical instrument shop even witnessed moisture, as he quietly said in confusion. "And Minato?" His voice was too low for anyone to hear him. "Did you say something, father?" An adult son standing next to him did not understand what was wrong with his father, and therefore he followed his gaze and saw a blond boy with a relaxed and serene smile. "Oh no, nothing serious," the elderly man decided to dismiss his son's question. His son looked a little confused, as at first he did not recognize the boy, but then, after looking closely, he was surprised when he realized who he was seeing. Slightly angry, he told his father. "Father, is it because of him that you have such bitterness? Has this demonic brat somehow offended you?" Hearing the words of his son, the elderly man suddenly got angry, and hitting his son on the head with his cane, shouted, "Shut up, you fool! Don't you dare call this young man a demon!" The elderly man was clearly dissatisfied with the words of his son. "But father, everyone in the village says that the guy did not have time to finish," as he was interrupted by his father. "What do they know? Tfu!" Spitting in contempt for other villagers, the elderly man continued, "Just give a bunch of idiots a reason to vent their displeasure, and they will believe in any nonsense they hear. Even if the target of their dissatisfaction is a small child." Rubbing the sore spot, the guy wanted to answer his father, but knowing that this would inflame him even more, he decided not to do it, and just accept his words. In any case, if no one offended his father, then he didn't care. All this time, Naruto didn't notice the small changes in the eyes of some of the older residents, and ended up quietly making his way to the academy, unaware that he had planted small seeds of doubt and suspicion in the heads of a number of people. Upon entering the academy grounds, Naruto looked around in an attempt to find Ino, but without seeing her, he decided to check in the classroom. Going inside the building, he walked along the corridor to the desired class and slowly entered it. Everything was as usual. Ino, Sakura and several other girls formed a circle around Sasuke. Shikamaru was sleeping on the desk, and Chao was chewing on another packet of chips next to him. Kiba tried in vain to divert the attention of the Uchiha girls to himself, while Shino just sat there and waited for the class to begin. Moving his gaze to Hinata, who had already noticed Naruto, and looked slightly embarrassed at him, all the memories associated with her behavior in his presence reappeared in Naruto's head, which gave him a lot of food for thought, but he decided to postpone this question again for later, though he decided to come over and say hello anyway. "Good morning, Hinata-chan," Naruto said with a light and warm smile. Seeing this, Hinata's heart skipped a beat, and she blushed deeply. "Good morning, and Naruto-kun," the young Hyuga replied, stammering, pushing her index fingers together and looking embarrassedly at the blonde, while she thought, "Naruto-kun is so unusually relaxed and calm today. And his new clothes, it suits him." Blushing even more, the white-eyed girl carefully studied the object of her interest. Even his gaze changed and warmed, as if something had ceased to torment him. Something good must have happened. "I'm so happy for him." Nodding to the hovering Hinata, Naruto headed towards his desk, but as he passed the girls who were attracted by the Uchiha, he gently tapped Ino on the shoulder, distracting her from the flirtation. At first, the blonde frowned a little, not understanding who had thought to distract her from this battle for attention, but noticing Naruto and his new appearance, she quickly forgot what she was doing and said in surprise, "Naruto? Wow, I was wondering why you were away for so long, and you really decided to completely change your wardrobe, as I advised you." The blonde looked at the new Naruto with satisfaction, obviously pleased with his choice. "It definitely suits you almost perfectly. Of course, I could improve this image, but I think that what you have now is also quite a good option." Noticing that Ino stepped back from the circle, Sakura also shifted her gaze and spotted Naruto. She also saw his new clothes, and could not help but think that this is the first good thing that she saw in him for all time. But then, remembering all his loudness, his passion to annoy everyone with his pranks, and his constant obsession with her, she suppressed all extraneous thoughts from her head, and decided to make sure that he did not arrange another prank again, and also satisfy her interests, because lately, Ino has started communicating with Naruto quite often. Standing next to her friend, she began to listen to what they were talking about. "Right, Ino-san. From now on, this will be my daily outfit. But I didn't want to talk about that." Looking at Sakura looking at them, he returned his gaze to Ino. "I returned what I took from you not so long ago. Thanks again for giving me this thing, it helped me a lot." Saying that, Naruto handed her a small rolled-up scroll. Ino stood a little frozen in surprise. The way Naruto was talking to her now was completely different from what it had been before. Looking at him again, she realized that even the aura around him had changed, as if he had been reborn. Even Sakura, who was standing nearby, noticed this, and for a moment got confused, but quickly pulled herself together, and putting her hand on Ino's shoulder, pulled her out of her stupor. Young Yamanaka quickly came to her senses and said, "Oh yes, it's okay." Then taking the little scroll he gave her, she asked, "What is it?" "I sealed this object in a scroll so you don't have to carry it home yourself. Also, if you need my help, then I am always at your service, Databeo." Saying that, Naruto showed her a thumb and smiled warmly. After that, nodding to Sakura, he relaxed towards his seat. Following him with her gaze, the blonde looked at the scroll in her hand and said, "Sealed it? When did he learn to use seals?" "We haven't studied them yet." Ino asked this question without waiting for an answer. But she forgot that Sakura was nearby, who did not think about this situation as much as she should, and expressed her opinion. "That's right, even I don't know the seals yet. This is definitely one of this dunce's pranks," Sakura said with folded hands and nodding to herself, "and I bet he's pretending to be calm on purpose to dampen our guard. If I were you, I would carefully check this seal before opening this scroll." Having finished her thought, the pink-haired girl returned to pestering the gloomy Uchiha, leaving Ino alone with her thoughts. Hearing Sakura's guess, Ino could not prevent such a move from Naruto. After all, she herself had previously assumed that the book she brought him could help him in his next joke. She decided to be careful and take this scroll to her father to check for unwanted surprises before opening it. She did not believe that Naruto knew the Fuin seals, and thought that this seal was either bought or stolen somewhere, or it was not a storage seal at all, but something else. Glancing suspiciously at Naruto, who still looked quite serene, a strange sensation of warmth and calmness emanating from him again returned to her. Remembering again Sakura's words that this could be his pretense, she decided not to attribute her usual logic here, and to trust her friend and her memories of Naruto's previous antics, so as not to allow herself to be caught in delusions. Only, she does not yet know that she has already become a victim of these very delusions, which in the future will turn her eyes on Naruto irrevocably. At this time, unaware of the two girls' thoughts about him, Naruto recalled his conversations with his mother about trying to start making music as a hobby. He remembered how she said that his father played the shamisen, and he remembered that he had seen this instrument once before, and it looked very long and fragile. Naruto wasn't sure if it would suit him, so he kept thinking. Just because my father played the shamisen doesn't mean I'll play it too. I would like to first see what instruments exist in general, and perhaps find something that I personally like. Naruto scratched his head, and realized something, but I still have no idea how good I will be at music, and whether it suits me as a hobby in principle. I guess there is only one way to find out. I think it's worth going to a musical instrument store after class and finding the right instrument for me. At this point, Naruto's thoughts were interrupted by a loud Kiba. Hey Naruto! I am glad that you finally deigned to appear, because while you were away, I was able to become even stronger. Kiba lifted his nose smugly, pointing at himself with his thumb. Now, in each of our sparring sessions, I will look even better against your background. The main thing is not to stop skipping classes and wreaking chaos in the village. His loud words were able to wake up even the eternally sleepy Shikamaru, who lazily looked up, trying to understand where all this noise was coming from, and seeing Naruto returning and greatly changed, he began to observe the situation with interest. With an odd look at Kiba, Naruto replied, Why do you think I skipped in order to create chaos? Maybe I've been training hard all this time, haven't you thought about it? Naruto always had a hard time understanding this guy. He had family, friends, was part of an existing clan, but tried to attract attention no less than he himself had before. Unless in the practical jokes, in his opinion, he sucked. Hearing Naruto's answer, Kiba and the other students standing nearby just laughed. Kiba wiped a tear from his eye and said, Ha ha ha! Yeah, right. Where else could someone like you learn new ninja knowledge and skills besides the academy, huh? Don't kid yourself, you will always be in the role of a minor character when the main character in my face shines in plain sight. Saying that, he winked at Ino and Sakura, whose attention was drawn to this situation, but immediately showed sour expressions from just one glance at Kiba's flirting. Naruto only smiled in a relaxed manner, and replied in a calm voice. If that's what you think, then good. We can find out if your conclusions are correct or not at the next sparring. To everyone's surprise, instead of the usual loud and annoyed answer, Naruto kept himself completely calm, as if Kiba did not bother him at all. This definitely pissed off Kiba, who was expecting a completely different reaction, and now he was seething with inner anger. Seeing such a strange contrast, some of the kids now looked at Naruto a little differently. Even Sakura had to admit that at the moment, against the backdrop of the loud Kiba, the calm Naruto didn't look so bad. Now, she didn't know if he was really starting to change, or if it was all part of his pretense to act out at the end. In her and Ino's head, the image of a loud, obsessive and hooligan boy in an orange jumpsuit is so deeply ingrained that all the slightest changes for the better are either ignored or perceived with strong suspicion. The only girl in the class who looked at Naruto with warmth and admiration was the young Hyuga. She clearly saw that Naruto was able to take the path of change. He was able to do what she was trying so hard to achieve. Naruto-kun was able to start changing for the better, and I still remain the same. I also want to change, and become bolder. She clenched her fists, and decided next time to speak to Naruto first. If she can do this on an ongoing basis, then perhaps after some time, she will be able to tell him about her feelings. While a small light flashed in the eyes of the young Hyuga, one lazy Nara found this whole situation rather unusual. He did not draw any conclusions, but decided to closely follow the future practical exercises. At this time, Irika entered the classroom and interrupted Kiba, who was about to start loud indignation towards Naruto. So students, go back to your seat, the lesson will begin now. Opening his journal, he began to check who was missing, and stopping at Naruto, said, Naruto, your long absence will not do you any good. If you want to get all the necessary knowledge and graduate from the academy, then you should take your studies more seriously. You understood me? Yes, Irika-sensei. I have a lot of things to do lately, so I can't promise to attend all classes, but I will try to keep absenteeism to a minimum. Irika raised an eyebrow in surprise, as it was quite unusual for Naruto to calmly accept his words and respond equally calmly. But what was more surprising was that Naruto, who wanted to become Hokage and was always eager to learn new jutsu, said that he had a lot of things to do, for which he exchanged his studies at the academy. Hearing about some things to do from Naruto, Sakura and Ino became even more suspicious, and more thought that something must be wrong here. Deciding it had something to do with the additional training from the third Hokage, Iruka just sighed and spoke. Well, Naruto, it's your right not to come, but if you don't handle the tests and practice sessions, I'll have to take action. Do you understand me? Hi, Iruka-sensei, Naruto replied in the same calm tone. With that done, Iruka checked the other's presence and proceeded to teach. After theoretical studies, it's time to practice. Practical lessons consisted of throwing shurikens and kunai at targets, sprinting, practicing substitution techniques, and, at the end, one-on-one taijutsu fights. In throwing kunai and shuriken, Naruto showed himself only slightly better than before, and only because he was able to correct himself, based on previous unsuccessful attempts, thanks to his memory. That is why he did not end up at the bottom of the results, and took a solid middle place. In the short distance race, he was able to break his last record, and to the surprise of many, was able to get into the top 3 students in this business, among whom were Kiba and Sasuke. If Kiba was angry and showered Naruto with questions about his sudden improvement, then Sasuke just frowned at the calm blonde and silently walked to the side. In the replacement technique, everything went as usual, as Naruto never had a problem with it, except that it was given to him a little easier thanks to his chakra control training. Finally, the moment of one-on-one sparring came, and Kiba was eager to fight like no other. Raising his hand, he said, Iruka-sensei, can I spar with Naruto? He asked with a grin. Iruka glanced at the calm Naruto, then turned his gaze to Kiba, and said, If Naruto agrees, then I don't mind. Great. Kiba jumped up and pointed his finger at Naruto and said, Come on, Naruto, are you ready to accept my challenge? Naruto just nodded serenely and replied, Of course, let's have a good fight. Kiba just chuckled and thought, The fight? Pfft. There will be no fight, there will only be a beating of one loser, hee. Naruto and Kiba took a position opposite each other and awaited a command from Iruka, who glanced over at them before raising his arms and slashing her forward sharply, saying, Fight. At this point, Naruto began to use his head as in his training session. He remembered that Kiba had a very high speed, so he needed to act with him ahead of time. That is why, he immediately remembered all the previous fights of Kiba, his behavior and manner of attack. All this gave him a complete understanding of exactly how Kiba attacks him, and of course, he did not disappoint him. Get this! Screaming, Kiba jumped in Naruto's direction, aiming his right fist right at Naruto's calm and annoying face. Kiba was very fast and extremely confident in his attack. Having already predicted this move, Naruto dived under Kiba's fist and bent to the right side. He made a body turn, carrying out a leg sweep near the ground, which knocked the surprised Kiba off his feet, forcing him to roll over the ground by inertia until he stopped with his ass up. Looking at his exposed butt, Naruto chuckled and asked, Does this mean that you are giving the first point to me? Author's note, this is a Russian joke, the word point can also mean the word ass. My English is too bad to have an English equivalent, sorry. Hearing his words, many of the children in the class laughed. Ha ha ha! Kiba clearly knows how to give up. Right. This is definitely a very visual way. Even Ino and Sakura held their hands to their mouths to try to contain their laughter. Hinata also chuckled softly, forgetting her shyness. Hearing laughter and mockery in his direction, Kiba blushed, and jumping to his feet shouted, pointing his finger at Naruto. It's not over yet. You were just lucky because I underestimated you and was not ready. The second time it will not happen again. Hearing him, Naruto's gaze became completely serious, and he calmly replied, In a real shinobi battle, such a mistake would cost you your life. Try not to repeat it again, and attack me with full dedication. Mission: defeat Kiba Inuzuka without missing a single direct hit. Rank B. Reward on successful completion: basic Namikaze clan taijutsu. On failure, weekly ban on seeing parents. After saying that, and seeing the new mission from System Chan, the atmosphere around Naruto changed to cold and focused. He didn't smile anymore, forcing even Kiba to stop talking, focusing on the fight. The rest of the students also became quiet, noticing the changes, and began to closely monitor the further development of the battle. Iruka also watched their confrontation with interest, noting everything in his notebook. He decided not to stop their fight after the first exchange of blows, as he saw that none of them were serious yet, but he was ready to intervene if they crossed the line. Kiba began to circle around Naruto like a wild animal. Many children did not notice this, but in this way, he slowly closed the distance. Of course, Naruto noticed this, and quickly jumped in the opposite direction. Seeing this, Kiba followed him, quickly catching up to him and preparing to launch a series of attacks. Taking a stance, Naruto was ready to block, but at the last moment he noticed that Kiba's fingers were not clenched into fists, but open with bared claws. Realizing that blocking such attacks would be tantamount to receiving a blow, he decided to switch to dodging. Kiba's first punch was aimed at Naruto's chest and slashed through the air inches away as Naruto successfully pulled his body back. Then he had to move to the side, avoiding Kiba's second punch aimed diagonally at his shoulder. With each evasion, Naruto avoided attacks better and better, memorizing and getting used to all of Kiba's movements, who became more and more angry, realizing that by dragging out the fight, he was allowing Naruto to read himself like a book. He had not yet had time to properly study his family's taijutsu, and therefore had an extremely basic and primitive fighting style, built more on instincts. Suddenly, noticing something, Kiba grinned and intensified his attack, pulling Naruto in a certain direction. After a few successful dodges, Naruto suddenly buried his back in a tree and his eyes widened at the realization that he had forgotten to keep an eye on his surroundings. With a grin, Kiba shouted, "That's your end, loser!" Seeing that Naruto was at a standstill, many of the kids in the class thought it was Kiba's obvious victory. Sakura and Ino were not even surprised, as they initially assumed that this would all end, but what was their surprise when they saw Naruto just jump up, somehow landed on a tree, moving away from the claws that cut through its bark, and then, pushing off sharply like a yellow spot, he landed behind Kiba's back, and round-robin kicked the surprised boy in the back, forcing him to fly into a tree and receive a second blow to the face from the tree trunk. The blow was strong enough for the disoriented Kiba to fall to the ground with a shattered nose. Naruto was about to land his second punch, but was interrupted by Iruka, forcing him to stop his punch inches from a frightened Kiba. "Stop! The fight is over. The winner is Naruto Uzumaki." Hearing Iruka's words, Naruto relaxed, and his whole serious atmosphere was instantly dissipated, and with a carefree smile, he extended his hand to the confused Kiba and said, "It was a good fight. If I hadn't reacted fast enough, you would have gotten me. You're damn fast, Databeo." Hearing his words, Kiba also relaxed, and with a grin, he took his hand and stood up to answer. "Yes, this last move of yours was also damn fast. All I saw was a yellow spot, and then a blow." Wiping the blood from his face, he asked, "By the way, how could you jump so sharply from the tree? It was like you were stuck to it for a moment." Hearing his words, Naruto replied with a grin. "The magician never reveals his secrets, nor does the shinobi," Naruto then added with a laugh, "but your clan will definitely be able to tell and teach you about it." Realizing that Naruto was not going to tell him the details, Kiba decided to do as he advised, asking his clan about it. The rest of the students watched in surprise as the recently feuding Naruto and Kiba were now talking calmly as they walked back to their side. Finally, plucking up courage, Hinata approached Naruto and said, "And Naruto-kun, congratulations, it was a good fight." Hinata was very embarrassed, but still continued to stand and look at the surprised Naruto. "Thank you, Hinata-chan. Do your best too, I will cheer for you, Databeo." Hi. Hinata was very happy. She not only managed to be the first to speak to him, but also to get his support for her fight. Clenching her fists, she was ready to give her all. Sakura and Ino looked at Naruto with difficult eyes, but Sakura was the first to come out of this state, saying, "He must have been just lucky. It's impossible to improve so much in such a short time for him." With that, Sakura headed towards the frowning Uchiha, who was still trying to figure out how Naruto could use this tree as a support in a situation like this. Left alone, Ino glanced again at the relaxed Naruto, who was chatting sweetly with Hinata, looking at which one could see that she was clearly in love with him. She felt a little jealous as she could never get such warm companionship from Sasuke. Taking one last look at Naruto, she sighed and headed to regain control of the situation around Sasuke with the other girls. Shikamaru, who was closest to Naruto and Kiba, overheard their conversation and realized that their blonde classmate had become not only stronger, but also more cautious. Naruto really began to change, and Shikamaru found it interesting, but he was too lazy to start communicating with him and find out everything for sure. So he dropped the question until Naruto wanted to talk to him, otherwise it would be too troublesome. The rest of the battles were pretty boring. The only two fights that interested Naruto were Hinata's fight against the clanless child, where the heiress of the Hyuga family easily won, and shone like the sun, receiving praise from Naruto, and Sasuke's fight against Chai, where the chubby boy, although he was slow, but on the surprise is quite strong. This was understandable after Sasuke's first attempt to block his punch, after which he was thrown a few steps back. Realizing this, Sasuke took advantage of his speed and ended the fight with a series of quick punches to the weak points of his body, incapacitating the plump boy. With this, the school day ended, and the students began to go home. Naruto was also able to receive praise from Irika, who was extremely surprised at his ability to temporarily attach to vertical objects with his chakra. Naruto decided not to tell him that he had already learned full tree walking, and water walking as well. Standing at the exit of the academy, Naruto thought, "Wow, the academy is no longer as boring and unpleasant as it used to be. I was also able to communicate with a couple of students, and my life begins to qualitatively change. I can't believe that I used to put so little effort into acquiring new knowledge." Leaving the academy grounds, Naruto headed towards the shops, thinking, "Anyway, now, as I planned, it is worth going to a musical instrument store. Hope I can find something suitable for myself." With this in mind, Naruto went in search of a store whose owner would not want to drive him away and would be ready to help him find an instrument. Walking the streets of Konoha, Naruto looked out for the musical instrument shops he needed, and noticing one, he headed straight for it. Going inside, he did not even have time to look around, as the seller appeared in front of him and said, "Welcome to wait a minute, is that you, that bastard troublemaker? In my shop there is nothing for you, get out." The seller sharply waved his hand, expelling the yellow-haired boy. Smiling bitterly, Naruto replied, "Dismissing a client is not the best policy for a business. But so be it, I'll look for another place. I'm sorry to trouble you." Saying that, Naruto turned around and left the store. The seller snorted irritably and said, "TSK, as if someone would trade with you." Spitting, the man returned to his store. Naruto just shook his head and with a sigh he continued looking elsewhere. After about 10 minutes, he found another musical instrument shop called Lotus Strings. Finding the name quite appealing, Naruto decided to try his luck and look inside. Entering the shop, Naruto was able to take a good look around before he noticed the old man, who was surprised to see him at first, but then smiled affably. It was a rather unusual reaction for Naruto, so he answered his smile with his own and walked over to ask, "Hello, Aji-san. I would like to start making music, but I'm not sure which musical instrument I should choose. Could you help me?" The man smiled and replied, "Of course, young man. You can find many different musical instruments in my shop. What type of instrument would you like for yourself?" the seller asked with interest. Naruto thought about it and remembered that his father played a stringed instrument, so first, he decided to try something similar. "I would like to see the string instruments first." Smiling even brighter, as if he heard something good, the seller got up from behind the counter and said, "Good choice, I think I have what you might like, young man." The old man looked inquiringly at the blonde. Naruto tilted his head to the side at first, but then quickly realized what he wanted from him. "Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto, Databeo," the blonde said with a smile. "Nice to meet you, Naruto-kun. My name is Haji Yamamoto," the old man smiled back. "Nice to meet you too." Naruto was really happy that someone from the villagers did not feel any dislike or hatred towards him, and therefore, he smiled with all his 32 teeth. "So what instrument are we talking about?" "Wait a second, I'll show you," the old man replied with a smile, and turning around, he went to the wall and took off a pretty good quality shamisen from it. "What do you think about this?" The old man handed the instrument into the hands of the surprised boy. Looking at the shamisen in his arms, Naruto was surprised that the old man had given it to him. With an odd look at the old man, he quickly received an explanation. "At one time, I already saw the same young man who wanted to buy an instrument for himself, and it was the shamisen that he liked the most." Hearing this, Naruto widened his eyes in understanding, and then looked again at the instrument in his hands, and taking it as he once saw from street musicians, tried to pull a few strings to extract a couple of notes. Tum tum tum. The sound was quite unique, but not too bright. Naruto found it a little boring. He also drew attention to the size of this shamisen. It was small, but at the same time long and fragile. It was not very comfortable to hold it, so he immediately gave it back to the old man and said, "I don't think it suits me. Shamisen is a bit long for me, and it has a small body." He pointed to the deck, and he looks kinda frail. Naruto explained with a slight frown, then added, "And the sound was, how to put it better, cloudy? Melancholy?" He listed, with a hand at his chin. "It sounds somehow sad and boring. Is there something more sonorous and unusual?" After listening to him, the old man was at first surprised that he didn't like the shamisen, but he did not attach too much importance to this, since each person has his own preferences. He just pondered for a while, until he remembered one rather unusual instrument for their country. Oh, I guess I have something interesting. This is a string instrument brought from another country. It is not too difficult to learn and has a very bright sound. Seeing Naruto's eyes light up, he said, "It's in my back room, I'll bring it right now." With these words, the old man went into the back room, and after a few minutes, returned with a stringed instrument that Naruto had never seen before. "Here, this instrument is called a guitar," Haji said as he passed the guitar to Naruto. Taking the guitar in hand, Naruto immediately noticed that it had a larger body, and much more strings. Taking it with a similar grab, he, like the last time, tried to pull a few strings to listen to the sound. Zanin, and the sound was quite sonorous and bright. It was completely different from what the shamisen sounded like. Naruto liked the sound, and holding it in his hands, the guitar did not give a feeling of fragility. Smiling, Naruto looked up at the old man Haji and said, "I like it. The instrument itself is quite hard, and there are also a lot of strings, which means that you can extract many beautiful and bright sounds." Naruto was pleased with the instrument, and wasted no time saying, "I would like to buy it. For how much are you willing to sell this guitar?" "Well, I have had this instrument for a long time, and no one wanted to buy it because of the unfamiliar look and possible learning difficulties, so I am ready to give it away for only 200 ryo, the old man offered a price, causing surprise to the young blonde. "So cheap?" Naruto was really shocked as he saw the price tags on other instruments, and the lowest was 450 ryo. "Are you sure, Haji-san?" "Hee, of course, don't worry," the old man just waved him off, and then asked, "You better tell me this, Naruto-kun, how do you look at me giving you guitar lessons? In the country where I got it, I managed to get some training to play it, so it will be extremely useful for you." "That's right, I forgot. I need guitar lessons, Databeo." Looking at the old man hopefully, Naruto said, "If it doesn't bother you, then I will be happy to visit you for training, and even ready to pay." Haji glanced at Naruto, and only laughed, replied, "Of course, kid, I suggested it myself. If you want, we can do the first lesson right now." "Yes, thanks, Haji-san." Naruto was happy to receive the first lesson today. He hoped that when he got home, he could show his parents what he had learned so that he could show off a little. The first 3-hour lesson was a real revelation for both Naruto and Haji himself. Naruto remembered everything with such a speed that it seemed that he would learn to play the guitar by tomorrow, and this is exactly what struck the old man a lot. On the other hand, Naruto was amazed not by this, but by how similar the music was to making seals. All notes, scales and sequences were extremely logical and structured, while they had many tonalities and harmonies, creating a whole bunch of all kinds of sounds. Thanks to his memory, by the end of the lesson, Naruto had learned absolutely all the positions of the fingers on the frets for chords that Haji knew, and had already begun to learn how to play fingerpicking, and even learned 2 small melodies, and 1 simple song, from those that old man Haji remembered for guitar. And what was Naruto's surprise when he found out that absolutely any song or melody can be played from absolutely any note, and apart from the tonality, almost nothing will change, with rare exceptions. The path of music opened up a whole new world for Naruto, so he continued to play the 3 tunes that Haji showed him. For Naruto, these melodies with the song were pretty mundane and uninteresting, but at least they helped him develop muscle memory for his hands to rearrange his fingers on the frets of the fretboard without hesitation. Remembering the chords is one thing, but playing them is quite another. The hardest thing for Naruto was to coordinate his left and right hands, since both melodies required different actions from the hands. It was only when he was able to play all 3 songs without obvious hesitation or mistakes that Naruto was satisfied. "Finally, I did it, Databeo. It was not easy, but after spending another hour, I was able to play these melodies without mistakes. Thank you, Haji-san." The blonde seemed to be glowing with joy, causing a smile on the old man's face. "Oh, you shouldn't thank me, Naruto-kun. It was a joy for me too. These days, youth rarely pay attention to anything other than study and training. And besides, your talent in music just amazed me. Even your voice while singing was not so bad, and how quickly you corrected your mistakes, in general, amazed me. With this pace, you will be able to learn everything by the next lesson, and all that remains for you is personal practice to develop a skill." Naruto scratched the back of his head in embarrassment, and replied, "It's just that your explanations were very simple and straightforward. I'm not sure I could have learned everything without you." "Oh, it's been a long time, I have to go home, Haji-san. I'll come to you tomorrow for another lesson." Here, remembering something, Naruto asked, "By the way, Haji-chan, what is the best way to write songs?" The old man was a little surprised, since the boy had just started to study the guitar, but seeing how quickly he was progressing, he answered. Well, that's a difficult question, Naruto-kun. Many people like to write music or songs about their emotional experiences, or about their surroundings. Someone writes about love, and someone just tries to convey their thoughts through songs. So, to put it simply, just write what's on your mind. Hearing his words, Naruto nodded and replied. Yes, I think it makes sense, thanks. See you, Haji-san. With these words, Naruto put the guitar in a case, and left in an unknown direction with a satisfied smile. You have a good son, Minato-kun. Having said so, the old man returned behind the counter, waiting for rare customers. At the moment, Ino and Sakura were walking with frustrated faces as their next attempt to spend time with Sasuke had failed. They were silent for most of the way, and only after a while they began to occasionally blame each other who was more to blame for Sasuke's finding them, and drove them out of his training place. It's all because of you, Forehead. If you weren't so clumsy, you wouldn't have revealed us so stupidly. Ino was still trying to prove her point. Do not put the arrows on me, it's all the fault of your large hips, Ino pig. If you hadn't been pushing, I wouldn't have fallen from the tree, and Sasuke wouldn't have realized that we're watching him. Sakura didn't intend to admit defeat, so she decided to add something else, and by the way, it was you who followed me, not wanting to leave me and Sasuke-kun alone. If you went home, he wouldn't be angry with us at all.